All right, it is that time again. We are doing our draft review, season prediction, whatever you want to call it, pod for HSTL season 49. I cannot believe this is actually my 16th or 17th season of being the commissioner of HSTL. It's getting up there. I think this might be a record of length, but so we're going to do that. I have with me who I'm really happy is going to be doing this pod with me, War Machine, who is our fearless leader of 2K, the new hottest league in Tecmo. War, welcome. Thank you for doing this with me.
Hey, what's going on, Hoff? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, so I'm excited. We have a lot to go over. I don't want to waste a lot of time here. However, so right before this, I was playing around, and I mean, I'm still really disgusted about how Tecmo Bowl lost to Gats. And I think, everyone else who was watching, it's just like, I think I wrote a message to War today. I said, if Gats can win a game where he plays like that much crap, and I'm not swearing on purpose for Rock Band, if he plays like that much crap and he still wins the game, like what hope is there for us all? Well, I was inquiring to myself that what would have happened if Tecmo Bowl had gotten that pass off at the end of regulation. So, I mean, what do you think would have happened, War? Do you think he would have completed that pass?
No, I mean Gats is just a complete luck box. He just finds ways to win. So somehow the ball would have been overthrown or underthrown, wide open, whatever. Gats would have found a way to win that game.
So, just so happens because I received the NSV, I was able to go back into the game, and it took me a whole bunch of tries, and I was able to stop the play where it was automatically playing at exactly the right time, take over the game, and actually throw the ball. So, without further ado, I am going to play this video. So, I'm pretty excited about this. So, here we go. Make sure everyone can see it. Here we go. To see if I'm going to take over this game at the exact right spot to see if Tecmo Bowl had gotten the throw off to Allen if he would have scored a touchdown. So it's going to be tough. I've had to play this like 4 times because I keep missing it. And I'm going to try to take over right at the right spot. So here we go. This is the last play of the game between Gats and Tecmo Bowl. All right. I'm going to take it over right about here. And here we go. And there you have it. At least from my estimation, maybe I messed it up. Allen would not have caught the ball. Just want to do this and see if it would have worked. Okay, that's all. Well, there you have it. There you have it, guys. Allen did not complete. DeBerg did not complete the pass to Allen, and that's that. It's a war. You were right. I wasn't trying to twist the knife at all there for Tecmo Ball. I was really curious to see what would have happened. So, okay, so.
Great job.
Yep. Yeah, right. I mean,
I messed your dedication.
maybe I messed up the angle. It really did. So I was trying to play the NSV and get it in the right spot without like paying attention, and it kept overshooting it like over and over again. So each time I had to do it over again. I started the process like at 8:30, so it took me forever. Okay, so we're gonna do this pod just to give everyone the format real quick. We have to be over by 11 o'clock Eastern because Rockman is going to be playing the AFC game championship, streaming the AFC championship and the NFC championship for TTL at 11, regardless if we're done or not. So we're going to be done by 11. That's the first thing. Second thing, we're going to start this with a little special surprise of previewing the Super Bowl. I was hoping it was going to be played today. I was hoping I could stream it, but Gat's in a superstition and not being able to play a Super Bowl game before Tundra Bowl on Saturday just has prevented that. So season's not going to start till next week, and Gats and Turbo are going to be playing on Sunday, I think. And so if they do that, I will get the NSV – and I'll stream that with commentary on Sunday. because I leave the area early Sunday morning. So let's talk about the Super Bowl war. What do you think? What do you think of the keys to each game? What do you think is going to happen here?
Yeah, I mean, obviously for Turbo, it's going to be Bo Jackson. I mean, he's with his tapping ability. I played him in the divisional. It was just a disaster trying to guard his offense. Uh, I got lucky with some play calls, but I just could not stop him at all. Gatz's defense is I forgot who he has on defense, but I've been scrimming with Gatz with Turbo's team just to kind of give him a feel for what it's like. Um, and Gatz was able to hang in there and make some stops. I'm curious to see if Gatz is going to tap. I know he busted out the tapping against me in last season's Super Bowl, but I don't think it's going to matter really with Turbo. But Gatz's offense, I think he really struggled versus me yesterday. He really has no receivers. So I think the JJ offense for Gatz is not going to be on the table unless he puts Humphrey at receiver. So I'd be curious to see if he's going to do that. And Turbo's defense, just he has all the pieces. He has an LB1 and LB4, and then I think he has Cardinal Lake, who's not that great, but he's in the DB3 slot. So Turbo has the pieces on defense to stop Gatz's running game. So I think it'll be a struggle for Gatz to score. But I'll never bet against Joey, especially with what happened yesterday with his game against Tecmo Bowl. It was just was pretty unreal on how he pulled that off. So I think Gatz is going to be the favorite. I still like him. If I had to put a line on the game, I'd probably put it, as Gatz as like a 3-point favorite. Just because of Bo Jackson. I think Turbo is going to be to keep scoring and stay in the game. I think he'll force Tolliver maybe to make one mistake, and that might be the ball game for him. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it's a great matchup. It's nice to see Turbo in the Super Bowl. I think he's going to represent well the NFC, and it's nice to get some fresh blood in there.
Well, and you mentioned Gats potentially tapping. I mean, do we think Gats, even at his best tapping, can out tap Turbo? I want to make note in Turbo's NFC Championship game versus Nas, he never eclipsed 14, which was to me surprising because I've seen him go 17 to 20 regularly. So maybe he just didn't need to go that fast or whatever. But so that's one thing to note. But do we think that Gats tapping will even matter aside from the drone
No,
stuff?
yeah, it's not going to matter. I mean, if Turbo falls asleep at the wheel on a couple taps, Gats may be able to get him with a 14, but it won't make a difference.
Well, it could make a difference though potentially with Gats trying to get away from drones. I mean, there's been definitely situations, obviously in the past where if Gats taps, he eclipses a drone and could potentially get extra yards or make a play that he might not be able to make if he isn't tapping at all. Like you even saw in his game versus Tecmo Bowl, whether it was instinctively, whether he was pissed off about how crappy he was playing or whatever, he definitely instinctively had a couple of tapping moments here and there. If you were watching the tap meter, I think I might have noticed it when I was streaming the game and mentioned it in the stream. But so just so I would agree there. It's I knew Joey went to great lengths to try to prepare, but the fact that he's scrimming you as Turbo's team is just next level stuff. So that probably makes sense why he is as good as he is because I don't know for a fact if Turbo is scrimming anybody playing his Gats team. So Turbo, if you're out there and you want to scrim, I'll be Gats. Even though I'm not nearly as good, and I'll let you beat me so you feel good, even though you uploaded this date already. But I'm trying to if you could look War real quick because I don't want to mess up the I don't want to have people see me browsing around. What is Lacey's line on this on the website? Do you know?
You know what? I don't have it open. I can pull it up.
No, I'll pull it up
Well,
real quick. I can dial into a
okay.
different computer. I was just curious. I went to it on my phone, but unfortunately, the website is not very mobile friendly, so it didn't really show me. But I will look at that real quick. So what did you say your line was?
I have Gats as a 3-point favorite.
I would say, you know, so you're basically saying if we are we doing the normal home and away thing where home teams automatically get 3 points, or are you just actually saying as a real 3 point favorite?
I have it as a real 3-point favorite. So is Gats at home? I forgot where
Yeah, so it's the AFC's turn to be home. So
AFC.
Gats is home.
Yeah, I think it's more of just a straight 3 point favorite. Not counting in the home field advantage.
All right, so I have the site pulled up, and Lacey has it as Gats by 7.
Really, that's
So
interesting.
I'm not sure why, but he's got Gats by 7. So, or Lacey has Gats by 7. Well, she's a whore, so who knows if she's right. Um,
I
but yeah,
mean, just looking at Gatz's team, I mean, he's Bobby Humphrey. That's his offense, and Turbo just has all the linebackers in the right spots. So
yeah, yeah,
Gats has pretty much run three, and then maybe run one where he can try to juke him, but that's about it. It's going to be tough for Humphrey to make some room to run.
yeah.
So
Plus, I would say that Turbo, if he can stay away from traffic, his tapping will definitely do that. I'll give you. I'm gonna go opposite you. I'm gonna say Turbo by 3. I think Bo
really, okay,
Jackson. I think Bo Jackson is too much, and I think that honestly, you didn't see it in the game that Turbo had versus Nas, but I mean, he's got Grady and Galt, literally, 263 MS guys. I think, yeah, Grady's 63 as well, or 69, 63.
right.
You got 263 MS guys, and even though he's got Tolliver, in there. He didn't use those burn routes versus Nas once. Granted, he had a couple of long runs where the drones didn't help at all, and drones bounced off, and he was able to break them. I don't know if he's necessarily going to break those runs versus Gats because Gats is the master at taking defensive routes. But I will say though, I definitely think that there's tools in Turbo's arsenal that weren't necessarily used. I will say I do think that Turbo, I mean, at least against Nas, Turbo was using pretty much all Lloyd, and not very much DB. I am curious to see how that manifests itself a little bit versus Gats, or if he goes a different tact, simply because, he has basically Carnell Lake, and that's it. So if there's a way Gats could abuse Turbo, it could be because Turbo is using mostly linebacker to defend. Like he's got Millard and Lloyd, but he really doesn't have much except for Carnell Lake as DBs. And while Gats doesn't really have the PC to take advantage of the low interception defensive backs, you know, that Turbo does have two slower defensive backs. So it's just going to be all very interesting. I know I said I would never pick against Gats, but after seeing how he played yesterday, I'm going Turbo by 3. And that basically, if you do the home and away thing, that makes it a pick 'em, but whatever. So I'm going Turbo by 3. You got Gats by 3. I'm stoked to see the outcome of this game. And, if Turbo does win, he should probably give some props to Arn or whoever taught him how to do the claw method. So, okay. Without further ado, here's how we're going to do this review. We are going to, we have about an hour and 15 minutes left. We are going to go through the first round a little bit here simply because, with the new tandems, we just kind of have to. We have to do it just to see, what people picked instead of the normal players. I mean, and then we'll go through that a little bit in the first round. And then we're pretty much just going to filter the doc based on Rockman's suggestion and just kind of go through team by team and their round picks and so on and so forth. So that's where we're going to go here. So let's just look at the first round here. And I don't think we need to go pick by pick war, but just looking at this, what sticks out to you?
Well, obviously the defensive tandems going before like Montana and the quarterbacks. I mean, I think this draft was definitely the draft that you'd want to do that if you were going to pass on the elite quarterbacks. In this format, you can grab pretty much your entire defense with one pick, and the Francis Fulcher Cincinnati line. I mean, that's an obvious no brainer. If you're going to go instead of a quarterback, but I wasn't surprised by those picks. I mean, I was expecting it because I think some of those guys at the top may want different than just take those elite quarterbacks. I mean, maybe the Chicago DB tandem, maybe go with the Chicago line instead of Richard Dent, might have been the better option. Since with Singletary and Carrier, you probably don't really Dent as much. And I'm not sure who Speed ended up with on the offensive line, but so I wasn't
Speed ended up
surprised with it. I mean,
not
it
to
went pretty.
yeah not to interrupt you. Speed, just so you know, ended up with the Cleveland offensive line.
Yeah, so I mean that's a pretty big drop off. You got a fast offensive lineman with the Bears O line. I mean, I think it was interesting to see the QB Browns fall to 14. I mean, that's crazy. QB Bills at 10. But that's what happens when you have those elite tandems. It's you're going to push some of those elite guys back a bit. So I think like Randy really got the benefit there, getting QB Browns at 14 out the deal. So
I obviously asked you what you would do if you were in my shoes because I had no idea what to do, and I obviously chose Warren Moon. For me, it wasn't really a pick between. The only reason I even considered QB Bills is because I've never had him before, and I've had Warren Moon. But um, a tick of PC maybe doesn't really make sense to me. And I had a really good season with Moon before. I think it was our last season of fantasy we did, where with Drake, where I killed it with Moon to Sterling Sharp. But anyway, I am curious if you would not mind just giving me a quick 1 minute synopsis of why you think picking a QB, because this is what you told me you would do. Why picking Moon or Montana or any of those guys like that is better than picking the defensive tandems that were left. So in my case, the San Francisco OL, Haley and Weber, and then obviously the Houston OL, Childress and Johnson.
yeah, I mean we've talked the last few drafts, and I've told you I think defense is overrated. I mean that's just my style of play. I feel like I can get by with maybe a weaker defense. So to me, I mean Tecmo is an offensive game, so I want to take offense if I can. Because I mean I think it was Big Red that was kind of going off in the chat about Fulcher, joking around that he's like Andre Waters when it comes to defending a JJ, which is true. I mean, you can have an elite defender, but you're pretty much at the mercy of Tecmo, with the passing. So I just prefer to go offense. I mean, I think defense you can always make up for it later, and you can always find a way to get some stops at some point. I just prefer to have those elite quarterbacks. It just makes it so much harder to stop you, and I think the results kind of play out for themselves. Like the teams that I guess the owners that typically struggle in HSTL, their best seasons are usually when they have the elite quarterbacks. So I mean, I think having an elite quarterback pretty much puts you, at least at 8-8 at the minimum, and then if you can get some good breaks throughout the season, I think you can definitely finish above 500. So I think offense is always the way to go. Whether it's quarterback or someone like Bo Jackson, I think is always the preferred route in my opinion.
I got you. And that makes a lot of sense. I would I'm kind of surprised at some of these other tandems that went ahead of some of the other guys. Like for example, like you said, QB Browns. I mean, to me, it was a little surprising to see QB Browns go, below. For example, I don't know if I think Lawrence Taylor and Everson Walls is more valuable than Browns, but maybe that's just my personal preference. I'm not a huge linebacker guy. Same thing with Lloyd and Woodson. I just don't know, what that answer is. But I'd agree. I hope I made the right decision myself. But I'd say that too. I don't necessarily know though. So going along with that thought process, are you surprised that the next defensive tandem taken after, the obvious number one to me is the Cincinnati OL, Francis and Fulcher. But are you surprised that Browner, Millard, and Dolman were taken next, and then more importantly, Dolman over the Minnesota OL?
Yeah, I mean, I think. Well, I mean, looking at those tandems, I mean, they're all fairly similar. Um, I'm not a fan of the Chicago tandem just because I think Carrier is so slow and Singletary is really a liability. Um, if you want to man him, especially against a passing offense. I mean, I don't mind the Minnesota tandem going next. I do agree Minnesota offensive line would have been the appropriate pick there as well. Um, I'm just looking through these now. Yeah, I mean, I still would have gone quarterback. I think over those tandems. I mean, I think the Fulcher tandem was definitely a legit pick. I probably would have gone quarterbacks or Bo. I think over the next couple tandems. But I mean, really, it's nitpicking. If you want some INT, you can go Carrier or Richard Johnson with those tandems. It looks like Barletti wanted to go with Millard and Browner, but I didn't mind those picks. I would have gone quarterback or running back. But I definitely would have gone Minnesota offensive line instead of Dolman.
Well, I
For
mean,
sure.
and that's my thing too. Honestly, if it's me, I mean, I think San Francisco or Houston pick is more valuable than the Chicago pick. I mean, I'm just not a Carrier guy because I think Carrier's too slow. I know Nas had Carrier and did really well with him this season because Nas is great at diving. But to me, like I don't. I mean, I'd prefer the speed of Dick or even Waymer, or whatever than I would in taking that Chicago pick. I mean, and honestly, so I had Singletary one season, and I tell you, because of his 19 interception, you can't really use him in pass defense. And I kind of say that about any of these, linebackers on here, even like Derek Thomas as well, Leslie O'Neal, those big guys who are fast. You can't really use them in pass, or Haley. Haley's another one. You can't really use them in pass coverage. And so with Singletary, and because he's so big, I just found myself putting him at LB1, taking advantage of people's crappy left tackle they were putting because that's where they,
Yeah.
for some reason, always hide them and never even man them. Luckily I had Singletary in a season where I had someone else that was manable. I had two good linebackers that season. So, I mean, from linebacker stuff, that was good. But it's just like, it's almost like with a guy that big, you don't want to man him because you don't want him to, not crash through. And especially because he doesn't have the INT, it's just kind of like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, I hate having linebackers with 19 interceptions as my main linebacker because ultimately you're just really drafting them as a decoy for run two is really what it is. You're going to plop them in at LB4, and then your opponent can't use the up the middle run just because of the lurch. So, that's really all they are. I mean, and I agree, Singletary is better as a drone, like against those terrible left tackles. I mean, he can just bust right through there. So yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think linebackers are a bit overrated. You're really drafting the DBs, in my opinion, and I would rather have Richard Johnson or like types over like Carrier just because of the speed.
Yeah, I mean, I think Carrier is the most overrated DB there is in the game, but that's just my two personal opinion. So kind of going down the list here, anyways, we were saying, I think, I'm kind of surprised at how low Bo went. Obviously, I passed on Bo simply because I had Bo before, and I think I had just taken Le'Veon Bell in 2K, so I figured why not go passing instead. And so and plus, when you can have a good QB, why not? So I mean, I passed on him. So are you kind of surprised at how low Bo went? Like, do you feel like Bo should be like the second pick no matter what, or is it just is it
Yeah,
commensurate? I mean,
honestly, I mean, I think after Eagles, Bo should always be the second pick, just because. I mean, the 75 MS is just ridiculous. I mean, especially in the hands of someone like Turbo, that's just unfair. But I mean, he just forces the defense. You have to call run because if you just get a man defender to bounce off, it's a touchdown every time. So then, having Bo allows you to have a weaker quarterback because you don't have to worry about having a decent quarterback. You can get by with the Billy Joe Tolliver types. He's just so hard to defend, and I think just one mistake by the defense, and it's always going to be a touchdown. So I agree. I think Bo should always be the second offensive player. I mean, I would take him over any of the quarterbacks. I just think he's that much of that valuable of a weapon overall. So
I mean,
yeah, I mean, I understand your perspective. Because you have Le'Veon Bell in 2K and you want to a little bit different, go back to Warren, and I can totally understand that. But I think like if there was like a draft and I was picking second overall and Eagles was going number one, I think I would take Bo every single time.
yeah, I'd probably agree with it. So like, I mean, let's just go top 10 picks, okay, and then we'll get off this first round thing because I don't really think we need to touch on this anymore, and that'll pretty much take us to about an hour left to go through the teams. So if you looking knowing the teams we have and knowing how the draft is set up, forget the players for a second. I mean, or you can consider the players if you want. Tell me the top 10 picks right now.
Okay, I would say Eagles.
So casual gets
Bo.
Eagles. Bo. So Madtown goes Bo, which also makes sense by the way because Madtown can tap to holy hell. So to have a guy
Yeah.
like Bo, I mean, he's even more valuable in the hands of Madtown than someone like Drake who might not tap as well as Madtown. Not that I'm saying Drake shouldn't have taken Bo. If you've got Bo available to you at 8, you take Bo. But I'm just saying Bo in the hands of someone who can tap is even more valuable. Go ahead.
Yeah, I agree. I think Bo two. I would say Montana three. I would So you know me, I love QB Browns. Like I think he's my second favorite quarterback. If it was me drafting, I would take him over all the other quarterbacks after Montana. And but I would probably go Fulcher, probably four Fulcher tandem, and then I would probably go the quarterback. So I would say like Bills, Moon, Browns, like that group, and Barry, and then I would probably go with like the Browner, Houston, Childress, Johnson, Waymer, like those tandems. So I'd probably only have Fulcher being like in the top four, then like the quarterbacks, and then Barry, and then I think I would go with like the other defensive tandems that were there.
So I mean, I'm just gonna say two quick things here. Zur is in the stream chat right now, being Zur, and saying that Bo is overrated. So just food for thought. The rest of this draft review, we can talk about how Zur thinks that Bo Jackson is overrated. You keep Zuring
He's
on.
saying he hasn't won a Super Bowl in a while. That's his
I
main
know.
argument, I think.
Yeah, you keep on keeping on there, Zur. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing is, I'm telling you, man, I've had all the quarterbacks now except for QB Bills, and QB Browns is overrated. He really, really is. I mean, you told me
I disagree.
you told, and here's why. Here's why. His passing speed, man. That passing speed really does affect things. I'm not saying you need like a Warren Moon passing speed, but his 44 passing speed affects things. Ask anyone who's used him. He overthrows the ball. He throws off target, and his avoid pass block is so low. He gets JJ blocked at the line all the time. At least with me, if you throw in traffic. I mean, yeah, he's got the 25 ms. There's not a big difference between 25 ms and 19 ms, in my opinion. I mean, it is a little bit better, obviously, yes. And so if you're scrambling and yada, yada, yada. But what I am telling you, though, is like literally you don't realize how much that passing speed and a voice pass block really affects things. It does. I have all my videos. I should make literally a highlight reel of all his JJ blocks at the line when he's throwing in traffic and all the overthrows he had. Just because, like, I mean, dude, how about this? I was playing JP the Bowler, if you remember him, when he used to be in the AFC East. He had QB Browns, and I intercepted him 4 times because QB Browns, in average or higher, overthrew the receiver 4 times in one game. Just to give you perspective. So I know you don't feel
all that. I just think so. QB Browns pretty much does it all. Like you need a JJ, he's there. If you have those higher passing speed guys like Moon, the JJs are a little bit more difficult, with that high passing speed. Just you have the legs for running. You have 44 PS for the JJs, the 75 PC for the CCs and the JJs. I just think it's just for me personally, I'm not big on like the burn routes. Like I prefer just the kind of like the lower passing speed. That's why I like Vinny so much. I can handle that. But to me, I just think he does it all. He's just an all around quarterback, and I understand the whole passing block and all that stuff. But I just think that he's the most complete quarterback in my opinion.
I understand
though.
No,
he's not for everybody.
So they're talking about. So we've definitely stirred some conversation here in the chat, and they're all talking about it. And Nas is saying Browns is great. Prime saying Browns is trash. So who knows? So I mean, dude, I don't know. I'm just giving my 2 cents. I can only tell you with what I've used with people. So. You know what I will tell you on this note, in my final game of the season, I had Dan Marino, and I'm playing Tadeos, and Dan Marino goes in excellent, and I literally let Tadeos score on purpose just so I could keep throwing the ball to Givens in triple and quadruple coverage with Marino in excellent because there was not a single drop. It was all CC galore, and literally, when Marino's in excellent, that passing speed gets weird, where it doesn't actually it doesn't go faster, it goes slower, but it just looks beautiful. I mean, I don't think there's anything more beautiful in the game than Marino and excellent. But I will tell you, fun fact, and I'm really done with this, and we can start going through the teams. When the year I had Montana went into excellent, and you think, okay, 94 PC, right? This guy is not going to mess anything up. I had 4 overthrows in one game, in one interception.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's Tecmo.
I don't know if Brew can weigh in on that at some point, but dude, that is just ludicrous. How do you have 4? I mean, 4 in one game? Are you kidding me? I mean, maybe I'm just an idiot. maybe I don't know how to play the game. Maybe I mean,
Nah,
it's very possible. I mean, I think honestly, most people are progressing and getting better, like you know, like Prime has, whatever, or Randy Wags. I think I'm getting worse. I think I was actually better back in the day, and I'm probably getting worse by season. I mean, look at me. I'm freaking 0-6 again, and
past your prime, huh?
I mean, I passed my prime. I mean, I don't think I ever had a prime, but anyway, um, I'm not going to tell you what I didn't. I did not say Montana was overrated. Stall talk. All I was saying is that I had a game where you just think it could, you know, it can't, no bad can happen, and it happened. That's all I was saying. Okay. Anyway, so let's go through these teams. We're just going to kind of start. Do you want to go through the teams by division, or do you think we should just go by draft pick? I don't really care either way. We could also go by alphabetical order. I mean, I'm not. Let's just go. Let's just see how this goes. Okay, so we're going to go through here. I say we just go alphabetical order and not care, because that way it's easier to go through it. So
Yeah,
we're
that's
gonna
fine.
we're gonna
Whatever.
start with Barletti, taking this out of the Rockman playbook. So Barletti, obviously, as you can see here, he took that contentious Minnesota pick, and then also he took Dolan instead of Minnesota OL with a 50 ms kick returner. Dude, I don't know. I mean, Barletti can just be Barletti, and that's fine. Uh, and then going down the list, he got his QB, he got his his running back and the Detroit backups. And then he just kind of kept going, and the rest is whatever. The Keith Byers pick and the John L. Williams pick to me, and he actually admitted to this. I mean, John L. Williams he picked by accident. He has no speed for receivers. It looks like he's using, it looks like he's absolutely using
Myers.
Byers and Williams as wide receivers. Looking at this team, maybe Eddie Brown at 38, 56. But I have no idea why he took Byers with a 44 QB. Or John L. Williams, which I know he tried to retract that John L. Williams pick, but I wouldn't let him. But yeah, this team just, I didn't like the first pick. Second pick is fine if you want a running back. But then, I don't know. Do you remember, did the QBs dry up by round 3 where he needed to take his QB? Because I feel like I got my QB way later.
It was definitely a reach. I think the 44 types. I think they might have gone later. Yeah, I
Oh,
think that was a spot to get a wide receiver. I think.
Oh, he took. I'm
Um,
sorry, I'm wrong about Williams and Byers. He took it to get Jensen and Edmonds. He's got Jensen and Edmonds probably. So basically, his whole team is
so slow though.
yeah.
They're
So basically, it looks
throwing
like
the speed.
maybe and that's the thing. So who's sitting? If you reach and take that QB tight end tandem, are you playing both Edmonds and Jensen? Then are you sitting John L. Williams? I mean, I just don't get it. But regardless, I don't think he's got enough speed, like you said. His fastest guy is 38 ms. He's definitely not going to stretch the field. I can see him getting behind and probably throwing Mel Gray in at wide receiver and just bombing the ball to him, because that's what he's going to have to do. Um, so I mean, that's it. He definitely has a good secondary. It looks like I don't know. I forgot what Glenn's stats are. I think he's a 38 RP 50 ms guy. I think he might be 44 interception, maybe, or 50.
Yeah, I think he's 44
Yeah, but I
interceptions.
mean, Kennard's good. I think Kennard's 56. Harper's underrated 50, and he's got the 38 50, 38 RP 50 ms, and he's 50 interception. And you got Browner, so I mean, his defense is okay. So it's more just a matter of what he can do on offense. Because like, if I'm playing Barletti, I stack up against the run. That's just me. But I mean, do you have any other thoughts you want to add before we move on?
No, I think you covered it. I think passing offense is going to be a struggle for him. Without the speed there, it's going to be tough for him to get those quick points. So I definitely would have preferred maybe like a 44 ms receiver at least at the minimum. I would have liked this team a lot better, but it's going to be a struggle.
Well, yeah, I mean, if he wanted to take the backups, I don't know if they were. I think they were available. He could have taken the San Francisco backups, and he would have gotten two 44 ms running backs, which I know is not 56, but he would have gotten two 44 ms running backs. I think in Carter and Sydney. I think those guys are plus a 44-50 wide receiver in whichever wide receiver they have there in that backup group that they could have done it as well. So just food for thought. I just think that if he's saying in the chat he's going to play them all, that means Eddie Brown is sitting. And that means, I mean, he's going to have, reception galore, but he's got a 44 PCQB, so what does it matter? So, okay.
Yeah.
Let's go on. Let's go on to the rest. Barletti's making me laugh when I'm watching this chat. It's kind of funny. Gats is trying to talk strategy with Barletti, and it's not going very well. Okay, on the casual. So I got to give casual props. I know he's had QB Eagles before. I know he's been in the number one slot numerous times. I give him credit for taking QB Eagles. I mean, if there was a draft to not take Eagles, it was this one because he could have definitely gotten. A good defensive tandem, but good for him. He took Eagles. That is the number one pick that you should take. I kind of railed them on Discord for taking Marcus Allen. I thought it wasn't necessary to have a 56 MS running back when you have Eagles because you're doing most of your running with Eagles. I think if anything, you're making Eagles less valuable by having Allen. He snagged Andre Reed, which I know if you guys remember back in the day, a few seasons ago, Odell is anti-Andre Reed simply because he thinks that the 25 RS of Andre Reed matters and he's not as fast on burn routes, whatever. He's got some good speed on offense, but the problem is, and you and I both know, is he sacrificed it on defense. His best DB, I believe, is Lake, which is not really that good. I mean, he's a 44, 56 guy, 50 interception, and that's pretty much all he has. I mean, he's got his jumbo wish guy in Ward, but he has no reception. So it's basically force feeding the ball to Reed because he's got the Phoenix QB or Phoenix tight ends who don't have any reception. So you're basically force feeding the ball to Reed, which or Richard Johnson, who's slow as all hell. I mean, literally Eagles could give Johnson a 5-second running start and still run past him, and then that's it. So it's just I don't see QB Eagles as like a force feed QB. And everyone who's been successful with him, in my opinion, has been really good at moving around and finding the open guy. So, do you agree with me that Marcus Allen shouldn't have been that pick, or what do you think he should have done?
No, I agree. I think, if you take QB Eagles, your offense is pretty much set. I mean, I like having some speed at receiver with Eagles just to kind of, stretch the field and it'll open up their their running lanes for Eagles to run the ball. So I don't mind the Andre Reed pick. Maybe in the second round, I think he should have gone defense for sure. But I think casual is just having fun. I mean, he's a great guy. And I think he just, wants to have fun with his team. I give him credit. I mean, he takes his losses and he keeps coming back for more. And he has improved a lot. I think he's in my division and he actually plays me pretty tough. Like our games are usually pretty close for a bit. And then, eventually he'll make a mistake. So I think he's going to do fine with Eagles. But I agree. I think he should have gone defense in round 2. I think Marcus Allen is kind of a waste. A 44 MS guy would have been, more than enough. His defense, really has nobody besides Lake, I think. Like his linebackers aren't very good. So teams will be able to run the ball on him at will and pretty much pass on him as well. So it'll be one of those types of offenses where he's going to try to play the clock game, maybe with Eagles if he can keep it within a score and play the clock and try to use Eagles' legs to grind out the possessions and make sure he the double dips with the kickoff in the second half or, try to keep the game, within striking distance.
Okay. So just so you know, Gats gave Barletti's team an 8 out of 10 on this stream, which I don't know if I agree with that whatsoever, but that's fine. I know I don't mean to go back to Barletti, but I'm just trying to keep an eye on the chat as you're talking to see if there's anything we need to touch on. And yeah, so okay. On to Dolo. So Dolo, tried and true. Dolo took the all defense, good value sort of thing. He's got the best OL in the game from a jumbo standpoint. The Swiss Army knife Offerdell, who can be, you're basically your nickel guy or primary defender, honestly, in general, but he's a little small, so he's not going to scare anybody. Offerdell's a prime DL2 not DL, LB2, LB3 guy. I mean, you can use him for the lurching at 4, but, he's one of those prime guys you can use for pass coverage. He's got Megget, which is good because Dolo can run the hell out of the ball. Then he actually did a good job and paired Offerdell with Percy Snow, who is bigger. I think Snow is 63 HP. 63 or 69 is one of the two. But he's got another linebacker now with 31 interception that he can use in coverage. Lewis is, I think, the best of the bunch of KC D-backs who aren't that good. And then he's got his 44 QB. And so as we were talking about Barletti took his 44 QB in round 3, and you've got Dolo taking his in round 6. Granted, are the tight ends of Miami better? Yes. But, is it worth the reach? Probably not. So that's my 2 cents going back to that pick. And then he took the backups for New Orleans, which gave him his I think that gave him a 44 running back, if not two. That's
Two of them.
That's Mays and Fennerty, right? Yeah, it's Mays and Fennerty.
Yep.
So I mean, he's got 44 MS guys galore. He could probably throw a couple of them in at wide receiver and do his thing where he just finds guys. He's got Duper at 50 MS for a little bit of field stretching stuff. He's got Riggs for his jumbo guy, and that's pretty much it. So, and obviously he can play conditions with the true New Orleans QBs, Walsh and 4K. So to me, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, this looks like a standard Dolo team to me.
Oh yeah, I mean this has Dolo run all over, and I think I love this team for him. I mean it fits everything that he does. I mean he got value everywhere. I mean getting Snow in round 3 with Offerdahl, Duper, and all the Saints backups and quarterback. It's really a perfect fit for his team. I'm curious to see who went after the Miami tandem in round 1. I wasn't crazy about that pick, but I don't know who was left, for him to pick there.
Yeah, the only thing I'd say with this, if I had to make one critique of his team, is that he's playing all linebacker. I mean, granted, Dolo can do it. We've seen him do it. We've seen him get to the playoffs countless times. Granted, he had like LT when he was doing it, but I mean, he has nobody to man in his secondary. So he literally, I mean, he could do Oliver a little bit. I mean, especially at the 44, 56, the 44 RP, but I mean, seeing Snow and Offerdahl in the same linebacker core, I definitely think he's never manning a DB. But I agree. This is a standard Dolo team. I think this is built to his strengths, and I think that's all I got to say about it. What I think it's funny. So Nas and Gats are giving ratings out of 10 for each team. I don't know if we should do that too to see if we match with them. Do you want to start doing that and to see if we all
Yeah, sure.
agree? So they gave Barletti an 8 out of 10. What do you give Barletti's team?
Barletti, I give a 5 out of 10.
Yeah, I was gonna say a 6. And then Casual, what do you give Casual's team?
Casual, because he has Eagles, I'll give him a 6 to make up for that poor defense.
Yeah,
I'd
I'm
say
gonna
6 or 7, 6.5. Would
I'm gonna
probably be
give him a
ideal.
7. I'm gonna give him a 7 just because of what he has on offense. But I mean, his defense he's gonna have problems making any stops. But just because if he can take advantage of the offense. So now we're on Dolo. And what do you give Dolo? And keep in mind, our ratings can include the player themselves and what it caters to. Because obviously, this team might be a certain rating for somebody else, but then could be a better rating for Dolo because it's built to Dolo's strengths.
Yeah, for sure. I think for Dolo, this is a 9. I think it covers everything that he does, all of his strengths. So, but I think in a vacuum, if you look at it for other players, I think it's probably more like a. But for Dolo, I think it's a 9.
I'm gonna go 8.5 simply because I wish he had a faster DB. I don't know if one was available at pick 20. I think there might have been Mayhew down there or something, especially to getting Snow later. Unless I don't know why he needs the 2 linebackers to be able to man the nickel. So I would have preferred him to get a better lockdown DB than having 2 fully manable linebackers. So I'm gonna go 8.5 for Dolo only because of that, and that's the only reason why. Okay. So I don't know if we're agreeing with them. Gats or Nas can keep track if they want to, but let's keep going down the list here now. So now we're down to Drake. And with Drake, he went Bo. Great value at pick 8, as we already said. We don't have to beat that one up again. He took the Biscuit Bruce Smith Odom's pick, which I'm sure can inspire some talking. Rodney Peete, which will be so he's got a lot of speed on this team in the sense of QB and running back. So if they pick pass, he can do a whole bunch of scrambling. Oh, it doesn't look like Odoms is his fastest guy. It seems. I mean, I think Seal might be 44 RP as well. Maybe I'm not positive. So he's got 2 44 RP guys. And obviously Plummer's great on the line. I think he's 38 RP. So he could potentially put him at LB1 and still maybe potentially block some kicks. But Biscuit will be his LB4 for diving. So Odoms has stone hands. He's got Seal too, so he can keep people honest. I think Bennett's only 19 interception though, so I don't think he's going to be able to help in pass coverage in the nickel. And then for the QB, he's got QB2. I think he took the Raider tandem just to get the faster Horton, maybe. That's why. I mean, I don't know the reason why to take them unless they were just the best that was left. And then, but good for him in getting I think it was great value getting the Atlanta backups in the seventh round to me, because you're getting Sean Collins there. I mean, unless you disagree, it is great value, and then the rest of it is whatever. So I think that he can do something with this team. It's going to really be how well does he run the ball with Bo, with the angles and the holes and the jukes and whatever else. Because I don't think Drake is technically an elite tapper. I know he's good, but he's not elite. I'm not really sure what he hits. I think he's like a 10-ish. It's going to be depending on, I think, what he does with Bo, specifically, and how he makes teams pay for picking run against him when he's got Pete. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I would like to see more passing speed with Bo, but I think Pete's fine. His defense is really where I struggle with. I mean, he doesn't have anybody to man in the secondary. Odoms, I think he's 38 interception, right? Or is he 44? I don't remember.
Who is
But
that? Who is that? I'm sorry.
Nate Odoms.
He's 38 interception.
Yeah, I mean, in a division with Prime and Nas, who are expert passing players, those guys are going to carve up that secondary. I mean, I forgot who they have on offense, but I mean, those two are just really masters at throwing the ball. So I think Drake's going to have trouble stopping the passing game with what he has on defense. But yeah, I mean, the defense I'm not crazy about. Offense, I think it's going to be elite, just because of Bo Jackson, like I said earlier, about being the second best player I think on the ROM. So yeah, I think his defense is going to have trouble stopping people for sure.
Yeah. So it's interesting. So Gats is on the chat talking about the MS of Seal. And I mean, we don't have to beat this one to death, but I mean, you and I talked about this, I think, in the 2K pod, and then Brew was there, or maybe it was a huge Discord conversation. Yes. So on defense, just so everyone listening, and then War, correct me if I have this wrong. Does MS help you to catch up to the guy faster? Yes. So just to give everyone a quick synopsis, every defender at 6 MS is actually faster than every anyone on offense who's 100 MS. That's why the defenders always catch up to the offensive guys. That's why you have to do the zigzagging to try to get the 0 speed and make them miss you and all of that stuff. So just everyone knows, 6 MS on offense is fast, or 6 MS on defense is still faster than 100 MS on offense in the long run. What really makes sense on D is the rushing. I mean, obviously the rushing speed with Lonnie Young, because he can go all over the place, and the rushing power. That's the big thing, where the rushing power makes the most sense because it's how fast you get up to your max speed. Now, for the guys who get up to max speed really quick, it's better, and because it's still, no matter what max speed you are on D, you are still faster than everyone on offense. And so rushing power is inherently more important on defense than max speed. So is there anything you want to add to that, War, before we go on?
No, I think you've covered everything correctly. I think people just like to speak in MS when they're talking defense. Like, to me, it's easier talking rushing power because I always assume 50 and above is always elite, and then 44 is always like at the the mid levels. So when people talk on defense and they say MS, it takes me a few minutes to kind of convert it to the RP formula, which is what I was brought up on. So you covered it perfectly.
Well, to give everyone a quick laugh before we really start flying here, because I know I'm taking a ton of time. When I was growing up, I thought quickness meant something. So I thought Broderick Thomas, Tampa Bay at 69 quickness was the shizzle. So just for fun, what rating do you give Drake's team?
Drake, I would say 6.5.
I'm gonna go 7, simply because I thought he got some good value someplace. And when you got Bo, what are you gonna do? I do agree. I understand why you wish he had higher passing speed, but I mean, I've made Pete's passing speed work with Barry and bombing the ball to Barry. So granted, Barry's a little bit different with his reception. So I'll go a 7 for Drake. Okay, let's go on. So now we are on to Eifer. So Vinny Testaverde, which I think you or I called that's talking to each other, that he's going to take Vinny or Pete every single time. If you guys aren't see the snarky comments, but the one that was put in here was pretty funny by, I think it was in there by Tadeos. And then he went James Brooks, which is a very Eifer thing to do. I don't really like his DB choice in a sense that I don't think Smith is that good. I think he's a 44-56 guy. I'm not sure what his interception is. I think it might be 50. And then Mervin Fernandez,
44.
It's 44. Oh, even worse.
I think.
Mervin Fernandez, he's okay. I think he's 50 ms, and then I think he just took a while because he had to take a while because they were flying off. And then he's got Brooks, who is not really fast. So I mean, his fastest guy to throw to, it looks like, is it's got to be Brooks at 38, right? No, Mervin. He's got Mervin and Brooks. So I don't understand the Brooks pick. I mean, obviously Vinny's 56 PC, so maybe that helps a little bit. But I guess that's okay. So, but it kind of gives him. So I mean, it's okay. I guess it kind of works out. It's just what he can do with Vinny. Like I mean, watching you use Vinny, watching Nas use Vinny, and watching people like you guys use Vinny just makes me think Vinny's capable of so much more than anything I could do with Vinny. But in any event, this seems like a very Eifert team. But I'll tell you, if you look at his last two picks, the auto pick and then his last pick, I mean, he has two of the worst DBs in the game on his team in Irvin and Carter. I think people are going to be throwing the ball all over him. I mean, it's not like Holmes is good either. I believe in Green Bay. So I mean, literally, I mean, his defense is Fletcher, who's small, and I know people have told me that because he's so small, he's not as effective because you can't play him in pass coverage because he's got 19 interception. He's basically, his defense is pretty much Smith and Fletcher, and that's it. I mean, what do you think?
Broncos OG defense, pretty much. I mean, it's terrible. I mean, his offense is great. I mean, he has all the weapons that you need. I don't mind Brooks with Vinny. I think the one year I had him, I had Vinny, either Butts or one of the 63 MS guys, and it was really tough for defenses to stop. So I think Eifert, he's really good with the mobile quarterback. So I have no problems with him on offense. Just the defense is going to be a big time struggle. I think Fletcher is going to be his main guy to man. I mean, he's 50 RP, but 38 HP, so he can't put him at LB4. I mean, he'll probably put him at LB2 because I think that's where he likes to put his linebackers. But I mean, he's gonna have trouble stopping like Stall Talk and Tecmo Bow. They're just gonna, I think, run all over him. So for a rating, I'd probably give him, I want to say a 6. I think.
Yeah, I'm gonna go lower because his defense is so bad. I'm giving this team a 5 because I mean he just neglected his D way too much to me, and I don't think his offense is strong enough to carry such a crappy D. I really don't. Like, I mean, if you look at casual, at least his offense, he's got the best offensive player in the game. He can do a better job of carrying a crappy D. I don't think, is it Eifer or Efer, by the way, or what is? I don't even know. If someone can correct me, maybe phonetically correct me. I've always called him Eifer sucked. I don't actually know how to pronounce it. If it's Efer, I'm sorry. So, but I agree with you. I agree with you there. I mean, and Gatz is kind of echoing what I'm saying, or maybe I'm echoing what he was saying, that his offense is not strong enough to carry his crappy D. So I'm giving this team a 5. I think you said 6. So let's keep going here. So now we're on to game high. So game high took Barry, good value at pick 9, good for him, like it. His second pick was the Ball and Kofor and White, and I don't really know what was available there, but I mean if you want a manable DB and a good linebacker and the jumbo guy in the line, that's your pick right there. Now, what makes it really interesting to me of the Ball Kofor White pick is then that he picked. I assume the Ramowell was what was left and Green was there, so good for him. And Humphrey, even though he's slow, is 56 interception, I believe. But it's just you have Kofor and Green now, so it's like I'm not privy to know if he's actually a good linebacker in manner. So I don't know if he can man linebackers well or not. To be frank, like I don't know, but I do think that he might have some trouble getting stops, obviously. And then his primary targets in the pass game, is basically Roy Green. I think he was part of the Phoenix backup group, and Marv Cook from the New England tight end group, and he's basically using Schrader and Mark Wilson. The question I have for Game High, if he's watching, is who's your starting QB? Are you going to do Schrader because you got Barry and you're doing that high PS offense? Almost trying to mimic like the Raiders, except you have slower guys at the wide receiver, or are you going to go with Mark Wilson and do the more JJ offense, even though you don't have anyone faster than 38 MS, or Green is 44 MS Green. So, but what are your thoughts on this team? It looks like his secondary is kind of lacking a little bit with stone hands, but at least half of them. But what do you think?
Yeah, so I think if you're gonna go Barry like number 1, I think I agree. Going defense, the next two picks was fine. Depending on who was there, I don't recall like who was available. I mean, I would have preferred a better DB if there was one available. I'm not sure if there was. I don't know if like Ronnie Lippett, maybe that type of DB might have been there. But I mean, the defense I think is solid. I mean, Humphrey is a good drone. White is slower, but they both have 56 INT. And then Green probably would go at LB4 or maybe LB1 um, for the left tackle blocking.
You know,
Um, yeah, you were
yeah.
saying?
I was just gonna say, so I'm watching the chat a little bit, and what I don't understand, is and so Nas is making a good point. He can use Kofor in the nickel, so when he thinks it's a pass, he can man Kofor, and then if he wants to run stop, he can use Green. That's fine. I'm all on board with that. But they are making a good point, and then I'm gonna actually echo it too because I didn't think of it at the time. Why pick Schrader? You already have Mark Wilson. Sixth round is high for Schrader, as they're saying in the chat. He should have maybe filled out his team better elsewhere. Like what was available in the sixth round that he could have taken instead of Schrader. So they're
I mean,
saying
I do
that.
know that the talent definitely dropped off. I mean, I think after like round five, it was pretty much trash for the most part. I mean, like just slim pickings. So maybe there was enough value at other positions that made it worthwhile. I'd have to go back and see like what was available,
Yeah, I
but
mean, I
I mean,
could.
I agree. I mean, I think Schrader was a reach, especially when you have your quarterback already that you took in round four. Um, but I mean, I think offensively, I mean, he has the New England tight end, and Marv Cook is solid. I mean, his defense is solid. I don't see too many weaknesses in the defense. Maybe in the secondary, but I think it's manageable, and I think there's enough there to get stops. And then he has Barry on offense. I mean, I think it'll be tough to stop him. So I think I'll give him a 7.5. I think out of 10.
Yeah, I'm
What do
gonna
you
go.
think?
I'm gonna go seven simply for the Schrader pick. I will say too, though, and I probably should reiterate, all these teams we're saying that might have crappy offenses, or whenever we get the teams that do, just keep in mind you can win a playoff game, a championship game actually, with 1 yard of offense. Just want to remind everybody of that.
Yeah.
So, okay. So moving on here, on to the
So
next.
Hoff, just to give you a quick time check, we got about a half hour, and we have I think like probably like 20 some teams left.
Yeah, we're gonna go faster.
Yeah.
I know they're making fun of me in the chat too. So we're gonna go on to Gatz is next, and let's take a look at Gatz. So Gatz is doing the Neil Anderson pick. Stinson is his primary DB, who's slow. I don't like Stinson. Prime can give you a whole list of reasons why he doesn't like Stinson, and then he's got Reasons as his nickel, which is great. I mean, we've had people lead the league in interceptions with Reasons, but Reasons is also slow. And it's even more damning having Reasons and Stinson be so slow simply because Gatz doesn't tap. And then I think he took the Glasgow pick for extra speed, not caring about the 25 interception because he wanted Jacob Green for his DL. I'm not necessarily sure about that. He's got Ingram for, maybe the burn routes if anyone can make Tolliver work. I think I watched a game where Gatz had like 250 yards passing with Tolliver and 100% completion percentage. So he's got Ingram and Irvin. I think Ingram's 50 MS and Irvin's 44. And then kind of moving down the list, that's pretty much all there is to note here. So I mean, I'm not going to say Gatz can't do anything. I mean, this team is definitely better, at least offensively, than his last team was that he's going to the Super Bowl with. So what do you have to add to this?
Nothing much. I mean, I've scrimmed Gats several times already, and I mean, he's been using Pagel more than Tolliver. I'm not sure if that's just more of just a preseason thing, but I mean, Gats, was doing well with his team as expected. It's not his best team. I think the season he had Fulcher, I think 2 seasons ago, might have been one of his prime like elite teams. Like this one's nowhere near that. So I think, it's definitely weaker than like what he would probably like, but I think he's obviously good enough to make it work.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously
I'll give him like a 7.5.
having Neil Anderson too, obviously Gatz can do work. I mean, what Gatz can do with a 63 MS running back, as we already found this season, is great. You were right. He is saying in the chat he's going Pagel instead. Just food for thought, though. Look at what he did with Hostetler, and instead of Whiskey Wade and 3 picks galore and all that good stuff. So, okay, on to the next guy. We are on to Hawk. So, whoops, I got Hawk and Gatz on here. Let's take Gatz off. We're on the Hawk. He went QB Bills, and that's basically because he, QB was falling to 10. That's a good value there. Then went the Holt Million lot. So he went DB, I believe, instead of getting fast wide receiver. He said that 50-75 was enough. I mean, obviously, he's just going to be chucking the ball to Sharp anyway. And Holt's big. Millen's relatively big. And then you got Lott, who can be, I mean, even though he's got stone hands, can be your one-man defensive show. And then, he's got Joyner for his, nickel and so on and so forth. And then I'll say it all day, the underrated Wes Hopkins, who is just fast enough to always trail properly and get those, those JJ interceptions out of nowhere. He's got the Herschel Walker to keep teams honest with the 44 MS running back. And then going down the list, that's pretty much it here. So, what do you think about this team?
Yeah, I love this team. I think he did a great job. I mean, I think some people tend to take the elite quarterbacks. I've seen it a few times. They'll take QB Bills and then they'll take a receiver that doesn't have a lot of reception, which sort of defeats the whole purpose of having QB Bills. But getting Sterling Sharp with Bills, that second round pick with the defense was a great pick. He doesn't have a great linebacker. I think that might hurt him against someone like Gatz with Neil Anderson. But I think it's a really solid team. I think he has it all, I think, to make a run here. So I give him an 8.5 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm gonna say this team is for me. I think it's a 9. I think this team is very well balanced. I think he has everything he needs for any good player. When Hawks above average, I would say to make a good run. So, I think this is a really well built team that has all the pieces necessary to do well. I say if there is one critique, is the fact that Joyner is only 31 RS and instead of your 38.50 that you would need or 38.44 you'd need for the lurching at the line. So I like this team. I'm calling it a 9. Okay, on to the next one. We are up to me. So I'm not going to talk. You can review my team. Go ahead.
Let me just quickly.
Okay, I'll start talking. So while we're waiting,
No, I got it. Okay. So obviously Moon and Carter is a tremendous combination. I think we talked about your first round pick. Different directions you could have gone, but I think going to quarterback was the right move. Getting Dal Green round 3, I think. His interceptions aren't great, but that speed will help against the run. Carl Banks, I think, is a lurchable guy, if I remember correctly. I know he's 44 RP, but I think he might be 38 RS, if I remember correctly. Your DBs are a little bit weaker. Guyton, I'm not sure what his INT is, but I think you lack some interceptions in your defensive backfield. But I mean, your team's gonna be all about the offense. I think you're gonna just playing a lot of shootouts. I think Green is going to be enough, I think, to get stops when you need them. And Banks, putting him at LB4 will at least prevent the run 2 up the middle. So I think you have the pieces on defense to at least get the one stop or two you might need in the game. I'll give you, I think, a 7.5, 8.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you on the DB. I sacrificed DB hands to get Carter because I thought, why take Moon if you're not gonna get the receiver to throw him to? So that was definitely in my head there. I think Guyton is. I think everyone is 44 interception except for Jordan. I think he's 50. Guyton might be 52. I'm not positive, but I know Hasty's 44 interception and he's slow. My DBs are relatively slow except for Green. Banks is 38 RS as you surmise. The Atlanta OL isn't great, but they're the best of what was left because I decided to take Banks instead of going OL when I could have gone OL. And then obviously, just to throw in there, I took the Green Bay backups instead of other backups because there's two 38 MS guys that I could play conditions with Woodside. And then Tony Page instead of a 94 HP guy because of the reception and using him in tight end. So, and lastly, just for Rockman's benefit, because I'll never forget, I took Rob Moore in the sim simply because of what happened against Flash in my last ever so far TTL game. So, Rockman, if you're listening, there you go, buddy. But I'm really screwed if I play a high PSQB who's throwing burn routes because I'm not gonna be able to defend that ever. So it's gonna be basically the Green and Bank show. Okay.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun team to play with, sure.
Well, we'll see. All right, on to Hugh Millen. So Hugh Millen quit, and then everyone convinced him to stay. That's great. So we're moving on here to Hugh Millen. So his first pick in the first round was Bird and McMillan. I guess that's decent value. I'm not a huge fan of McMillan. He's one of those just fast enough to be too slow guys. Although Bird is great. He's one of my favorite linebackers. The Houston backups, I think, was to get Givens and Duncan.
Duncan.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, good for him on there. He took Talley and Smith so Talley is a great nickel, one of the best nickel linebackers there are on the Buffalo offensive line. Is good. Gary Anderson to run, fine. But he took LVP, and Lord knows he's going to have a terrible season simply because he took the LVP, Aikman. I mean, and I will tell you from Dak Prescott's point of view in 2K, he's terrible. And then kind of going on the list here, the fact that he took Eric Metcalf makes no sense. And whatever. And so that's another thing on here too. If you're looking at this, for anyone not looking, he has literally zero hitting power on offense. His biggest guy is Gary Anderson. Uh, because even the Houston backups, he's got maybe a couple 81 BC guys for the running backs, but he has zero hitting power because he's got the Atlanta tight ends, which are just basically wide receivers. I think Johnson or whatever the guy's name is on Atlanta is 50 HP, and that's it. So he has no hitting power. I'm not really a big fan of this team. I'm just going to give you my score right now. I think this is a 5.5. What do you think?
I think it's more of like a 6.5 kind of team. I'm not a big fan of like taking like two really good receivers. I think it was RMM took like Houston wide receivers in that one draft where it was all the position. To me, it's a waste having two receivers. So I would have preferred maybe a better pick there. But I like the first round pick. I think given like what was taken, what was available at that point, I think that grouping was solid. So his defense was pretty much set there, and I would have focused more on offense going forward, which he kind of did with getting Gary Anderson, but then LVP, like you said. Maybe round 3, if there was a better offensive player, maybe it might have been a better pick, but I don't know who was there. Like to me, it's not terrible, but it's not good. Like it's kind of like in the middle, so I think it's 6.
Well, I
6.5.
just think Aikman brings it down to a 0. Honestly, we can just say
Yeah.
that out. We can just say that out loud. But I can't. I'm sorry, I can't get on board with thinking that Brendan McMillan is a better pick than like Neil Anderson and some of the people taken there at the bottom of the first round. I just think Neil Anderson or Thurman Thomas are more impactful than Brendan McMillan. I'm curious while Gas is listening, if he could tell me in the chat. If he had Bird McMillan available to him when he took Neil Anderson, which one would he have taken, Bird McMillan or Neil Anderson? I'm curious what he would say. But yeah, so we can just kind of move on here. But those are my thoughts there.
Yeah.
Okay, on to Big Red. Gat said he would take a Neil, so he agrees with me. Okay, so on to Big Red. He took Lloyd and Woodson and the Pit OL, obviously, with the 13th pick. And then snagged Emmitt Smith in round 2, which is pretty good for 56 MS, I believe. I don't know if round 3 is a reach for Elway. To me, it seems kind of like it is. And then he, doubled down on crappy QBs, and he has, Jimmy Mack because he's wanted Keith Jackson. Maybe he's using not Awalt. I don't even know who the second tight end is on Philly. Awalt's Dallas. I forget. But anyway, he's got Keith Jackson, who he wants as probably his primary receiver. But then here we go here, right? So he's got Elway, right? And then he's got Jackson at 50 MS. He's got Mark Jackson at 44 MS. He's got Eric Martin at 38 MS. It's fine. My only thing I'm thinking to myself now is he's got all this receiving, from a reception standpoint, simply because he's afraid of drops. Because I don't know what other reason to take all these high reception guys when you've got Elway. And maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong. But then other than Woodson, his defense is piss poor. He literally just has Lloyd and Woodson, and that's it. So, that's pretty much, and then he has no depth when it comes to backups. Like it's Emmitt Smith. Mack is probably playing tight end, I would guess. Or maybe he's playing running back, and then he's actually going to put Jackson truly at tight end. Keith Jackson, and then Mark Jackson. I don't know what he's going to be doing with his lineup a little bit, but what do you think?
Yeah, I think he did the right thing. I think by taking that tandem in his first pick, I think he smartly went offense the rest of the way. I'm in the group of that, like drones are drones. So if I can get 2 studs like he did, I think that's enough. And he went with like all offense for the next like 6 picks, I think it was, at the expense of his drones. I might have maybe gone maybe a different pick, maybe instead of Eric Martin, maybe take a defense if there was at least a tandem there that had maybe a good, solid like defensive back drone there. But I don't fault him for doing what he did. I think he built the team, properly, and with Elway and Smith, I think that's a good combo to have. That 56 MS I think is enough to keep the defenses honest. Maybe it was overkill with offense, but I mean, having that first round pick, I mean, pretty much sets you for a few rounds.
I just
I
don't.
actually like this team a lot. I think I'll give it 8.5.
I don't understand. I just don't understand the receiver picks, man. Like that's my thing. Like if you're gonna take Jackson, Martin, and Mack, what do you need Keith Jackson for? If you're gonna take Keith Jackson for, Mack makes sense. Let's just say Keith Jackson makes sense, but then Mark Jackson, and Eric Martin don't make any sense. Like I mean, there had to have been something better in round 5 that he could have taken that was better off. That he's better off than taking Mark Jackson. Maybe round 6 it was a little drier, but I mean I don't know. So.
I do remember, I think in the draft, I forgot which round I took my second receiver. I think I might take him in the 5th round. There was a period in the draft where receivers were at such a value. I think everybody took defense for the first 4 or 5 rounds, or for the first 4.5 rounds. And there were just so many like solid receivers that were left. Like it was like either take like a Mark Jackson, Al Toon type, or like these piss poor drones on defense. Like those were your options. So I'm wondering if he took Mark Jackson at that period of time where it was like there was nothing else and the receivers were the values, and then maybe it was overkill with Eric Martin in the next round. But I do know that I think it was the 5th round where there was like so much value at receiver, and I'm wondering if that's what kind of maybe triggered him to make that pick.
So I mean, maybe it's just my personal preference. I don't think this is 8.5. I'm gonna call this a 7, but that's just how I am. But I mean, I obviously probably could not play with Elway like you guys could, so. For what it's worth, that's just my two thing. But I'm glad that you guys like it and people in the chat like it too, and they agree with you more than they agree with me. Okay, what's going on with my filter here?
15 minutes before 11, just so you know.
I know we might go over, and Rockman might have to wait, or he might have to leave, and that's fine. All right, on to Jesus. So he did the. I love the San Francisco L Haley Waymer pick, but I mean, obviously, I was kind of giving Zur hell for it. For not taking this instead of and him taking Houston instead. Whatever, they're both really good. Then he did DeBerg, which is interesting because, DeBerg's so slow, but I mean, maybe that doesn't matter either. And then the Raiders backups, which I don't even know. Oh, that must have given him Grady and Tim Brown. That's why.
Yeah.
So that's how he's gonna probably throw burn routes to them. Then he's got Hilliard, which works really well with his ability to tap. And then he built his, Gale as a 56 interception guy. If no one remembers, back when I had Montana, Drake was in my division and intercepted Montana. I think Montana got intercepted 3 times by Gale that season by Drake. Took a Minnesota QB2 simply to get. So obviously, if DeBerg gets hurt, he's screwed because he's got Gannon, and he did that just to get Steve Jordan, and then he kind of filled out his team with. So he has a really actually good secondary from a hand standpoint between McDowell, Gale, and Waymer, and then obviously Pollard's only 38 interception, but whatever. He's got some good depth in this team. I actually really like this team. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's one of my favorite teams I think I've seen so far. He pretty much nailed all of his picks. The first 4 picks, I think, were all solid. I don't really see a weakness. I mean, his offense is going to be elite. Defensively, I mean, Waymer, obviously, but he has a lot of INT in his secondary. I think McDowell's 56 INT. I could be wrong.
Yeah, he McDowell and Gale are both 56.
Yeah, and then Pollard I think is 50. So it's not like he has any weaknesses to take advantage of.
Oh, I thought Pollard was 38. Maybe you're right.
You know what? Maybe I'm thinking of the other guy that's on San Francisco. I could be wrong.
No, I could be wrong. Anyway, go ahead.
Anyway, I mean, to me, it's a 9.5. I think it's the best team I've seen, I think, so far.
No, I'm going to fully agree with you. I love this team. This is the 9.5 to me as well. I think this also plays to his strengths. I think he's going to, I think he could potentially, even with Dolo being Dolo, this team really equips Jesus and fits him to do really well in that division. He's going to be a force to be reckoned with this team. I thought he did a great job drafting. From that's great that he was the 11th pick in the draft, so good for him there. But I thought he did a great job. Okay,
Agreed.
on to Madtown. So Madtown took the infamous Francis and Fulcher and OL pick instead of Bo, which we already touched on. We don't need to go through that again. Then he took Hayward Jeffries before he took QB, which is usually backwards. And I was telling you during the draft, Madtown, I think his first 4 picks in the draft, when we were 4 or 5 picks in the draft, he was my favorite team. Like, I loved his team. I mean, I don't necessarily agree with some of his picks later in the draft, but honestly, his team is one of my favorites, or was when he was picking it. I think it's really built for success. He's got some good stuff. He's got the one-man defense, and plus he's got 2 linebacker helps he can use. Plus Romanowski's no slouch either. Although you're right. One of those guys in the San Francisco secondary has hands and a couple don't. He's got Carter.
Griffin.
Yeah, he's got Turnbull. I think is 63 HP. Carter 69 HP. He's got Hector in New Jersey backups because that was actually that last 44 MS running back available. And then he's got Slaughter on the other side of Jeffries. He's got Merrill Hodge, who he can play at tight end, who's got enough hands to play at tight end. I mean, this is a really well-built team, in my opinion. What do you think?
Oh, I totally agree. I think on defense he has speed. I mean, he has Fulcher obviously, but I mean his linebackers Francis, Willing, Romanowski are all 44 RP. They're going to be swarming around the ball. I would have liked him to get maybe a faster running back, but he's had a lot of success in 2K with a 44 MS running back. So I think he'll be fine with Hector. I do like this team a lot. I think it's a 9 out of 10, given like he has the nice passing combo there with Magic and Jeffries, and obviously Fulcher is Fulcher. So I give his team a 9.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to also go with a 9, and I would agree with you on running back. Curious to see if there was a 50 MS running back available in round 4 instead of the Turnbull Swilling Maxi pick, because that pick probably was a little embarrassment of riches where he didn't necessarily need it, especially getting Romanowski later, because Romanowski can very easily just play LB1 and block kicks. So if there was a 50 MS running back available at pick 4, I even rate it lower than a 9 just because he passed it up. I'm not sure if there was or wasn't, but I would say this is a really well built team. Okay, going down the list here. So we got 10 minutes left and we probably have half the league. On to Nas. So this is a Nas team all over the place, and Nas owes me a ton for taking the Muffin Man for him. I had so many people chirping on Discord for making that auto pick for Nas, specifically because Nas at the end of the draft. And then because of the way our rules changed, he gets the auto pick instead of getting hurt for not making a pick. And it was probably the pick he would have taken anyway. But, I mean, this is a really well-built team. Again, well done, Nas. Boomer's perfect for him with what he's been able to do with passing speed and scrambling. Marion Butts, obviously we know what Nas can do running. Baker's great for Boomer. McDonald can be, he can do enough with a 44 RP DB. That's fine. Cobb for blocking, and then he kind of filled out his defense. And then, the rest of it's whatever. So it's a Nas team to me. What do you think?
It really, really sucks to be in the NFC and have to play this team because on offense, it's just ridiculous. It's going to be impossible to stop him. It's hard enough to stop him when he has a shitty quarterback and some like less than stellar pieces. But now with like Butts and Baker and Boomer, it's just going to be difficult to stop him. I mean, his defense obviously is lacking, but Tim McDonald, I think in round 4, I mean, that's a solid pick. I mean, not much you can ask for. Getting McDonald there. Not having a linebacker might hurt, but I mean, I think he's done it this season without a linebacker. So, I mean, to me, this is like an 8.5. It would be much higher if you just had maybe a little bit better defense, but I think 8.5 is my score.
Yeah, I mean, Gats is saying exactly what I'm thinking. I would go offense as a 10 for sure, especially for Nas. I'd say defense is more of a 5 for me. I don't think you can do a one-man defense with a 44 RP guy with only 56 interception. It doesn't do it for me. I'd say his defense is a 5. So, I mean, I'm going to call this an 8 instead of an 8.5. But, I mean, maybe it can go up higher because of Nas himself. But, I mean, honestly, I don't see Nas getting stopped unless Boomer overthrows or someone fumbles on a pick play or something like that, because I mean Nas can do some serious work with this team, so it's going to be interesting. Okay, back down to looks like we're on player. We're into the P's. We're past the M's. Okay, so player took Mayhew, which was a single. I mean, the Washington OL is fine, but basically, this is probably the best value that was there when he took Mayhew. Mayhew is, one of the better DBs. Then he's got Steve Young, who some people like, some people don't. That comes with Brent Jones, a pick I really thought that Prime was going to make, and Prime was going to cry he didn't get to make, but that's fine. And then it looks like he went Pepper Johnson, which I don't know how good. I forgot how good Greg Jackson is on the Giants, honestly, but Pepper Johnson's good. So he's got his 50 MS running back and Craig, and player can tap to holy hell, so good for him. Golick is a huge guy in the line, and even though Washington has no hands from the Raiders, he's still fast. The Bentley thing, I'm not necessarily sure about. Maybe he's going to do conditions with Craig. Maybe he's going to play him at tight end, wide receiver. Not really sure. And then he snagged Irving Fryer. So he's got receptions on his team, even though he only has a 44 PCQB. And then the Dallas backups give him Alonzo Highsmith, who's like the ultimate Swiss Army knife there as well. So, I mean, this team is, it's good for player. He's got what he needs on defense, and he's got a serviceable offense. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think I think people there's a certain fascination with Steve Young that a lot of people have. He tends to go a lot earlier than normal, and then usually after a couple games in the regular season, people immediately regret it. He's difficult to use. I mean, it takes a certain patience with him. I think people tend to think that with the PS they can just kind of like go the burner routes, but a lot of times he ends up overthrowing it or comes off as an errant pass. I think Bentley's going to be his receiver. It looks like I don't think he took a receiver until round 8. So I think, unless I'm missing something with the backups, but Bentley's probably going to be his receiver, which I don't know if there's enough speed there with only Roger Craig at running back. But player is a solid tapper, so I think he should be able to run the ball. I mean, to me, this is like a 7 in my mind. It's solid. I'm not in love with it, but I think it's definitely enough for him to make a run.
Yeah, his starting 5 on offense are clearly going to be in whatever order: Roger Craig, Brent Jones, Albert Bentley, Irving Fryer, and Alonzo Highsmith. Those are probably going to be his 5 starting people. Wherever they play. I mean, yeah, his fastest guys, but Craig. But I think Craig isn't Craig 50 reception, or is he 38 reception? I think he's got higher reception. So maybe if need be, he can
44 actually.
Yeah, he can throw him up there if he needs to throw a bomb or what have you. What number did you give this team?
7.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 6.5.
Okay.
Just because I don't really like Steve Young. I was victim of that. You think you can throw the ball anywhere with Young, and he just gets JJ picked to galore just because of how what he does. But anyway, all right, on to Prime. So we pretty much all these guys are in the NFC West have all names close to each other. So Prime went with the the Giants OL LT Walls pick. I'm not sure about that, but and then the Ken O'Brien pick, I'm just gonna stay till I'm blue in the face. It's a complete reach in the second round, but it's Prime being Prime, even though he said he wouldn't do this again anymore. Christian Okoye, don't agree with that at all. He and I had talked about it, and there was a better wide receiver available, and he said he was getting his 50 MS running back, and I told him immediately after he took Okoye, he should have taken a wide receiver for Ken, and it turns out he still would have gotten a 50 MS running back on the swing, and could have gotten a better wide receiver for Ken in the Okoye spot. So Prime does know that, because we talked about it. So he's got Vance Johnson though at 50 MS, I believe, and then Hester in there at 38. And then, kind of going down. He's obsessed with Mark Bavaro. I don't know why. And he's got Hostetler, which doesn't really mean much to him because he's not more of a scrambler. He likes the high PC. So, I mean, it's just kind of that. And then the Pitt backups give him some 81 BC guys. I don't know if there's anyone worthwhile in the running backs there. And then he's going to start Steve Sewell, he said. Probably at tight end, I would guess. I don't really know. So, this is definitely a Prime team. He doesn't really have. I mean, Walls is serviceable as a DB, but I think he's probably manning LT most of the time. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think when he was making his first round pick, QB Browns was there, and I was like, oh shit, he takes QB Browns. It might be a good game because just because of Prime's ability to throw the ball, but I think his passing speed, I think, was not to his liking. But I agree. I think the Giants pick. I mean, there might have been better tandems out there, but I think Prime just want to go with the balance route like he always does. I mean, like you said, it's a typical Prime team. There's nothing more to really add. I think he'll do fine with it. I mean, he always does with these types of teams. So, I think to me, I think it's like a 6.5 out of 10. But I think like with Prime's ability, I think he's going to be able to make a run for a wild card. I still think it's going to be a Nas's division.
Yeah, I'm gonna call this. I'm gonna call this a 7. I'll call this a 7, simply or just because of the reach on Ken, and then I would have given him a higher score because on basis of Kokoy and Johnson are fine, but knowing what he could have had instead, I had to deduct a little bit there. All right, moving on down. We're down to Randy Wags, who was killing it in 2K Platinum this season. So he went with QB Browns, great value at pick 14, your favorite QB. I'm sure you're going to give him an 11 just because of that. Then he's pairing Ellard with Browns. Going to be impossible to stop that CC combination. Took the Perry, who is just big and can blow up lines, and Wolford, who I think is going to be his fastest DB. I think he's a 44. He might be a 38 RP. I don't remember. Denver, oh wow.
30 RP, given what I see here.
Yeah, he's 38 RP. That means Dishman and Wolford are both 38 RP, but they both have good hands. I think Wolford's 63 and Dishman's 56. And then you've got the Mecklenburg and Atwater. Atwater sucks. I mean, he's fast-ish, I think, and he's big. I think he's 69 HP, but he has no hands. I think he's 25. So let's kind of go down the list. And then he's got the Lorenzo White. I think Lorenzo White is his primary running back. He is, unless he uses Stratford or whatever and uses 38 MS running back. And then he's got Jones in there. So, I mean, to me, this is kind of like running a little bit, getting out of bounds, which stinks because Randy Wags is a good tapper. So the fact that he's got a guy who fumbles all the time is a shame that he really shouldn't engage all the time with him. But I tend to think he's going to digress from his usual method of ISO runs against people he can on tap and to start chucking the ball to Ellard. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I was loving this team the first 2 picks, and then I think the third round pick I was disappointed with a bit because I think there might have been better manable defenders at that pick. I mean, Wolford is a nice drone to have, and you can play conditions with him, but I would have loved to see him take like either like one of the Miami DBs or even like Tim McDonald type, like the 44 RP, 56 INT. I would have loved the team a lot more. Because really his defense is just non-existent. I think people are going to score at will. He does have Browns and Ellard. He did have Drew Hill and Vinny this year. It was one of his worst seasons, so I'm curious to see how he does with. I mean, this is a much more elite version of that. But I'm curious to see because it definitely goes against his style of play, and we'll see if that ends up hurting him a bit. But I would have loved to give him this higher rating, but I think it's like a 7. I think he's good enough on defense to get some stops. On offense, I think he might be unstoppable.
Yeah, I mean, it really just depends if Brown has a good game or not. I'm gonna call this. I'm gonna call this a 7.5. I just think that because of how compelling it is to throw Browns to Ellard, but I mean, and I think he's actually probably gonna be manning Atwater. I think Atwater's the fastest guy in his defense, looking at all his defenders, and at 25 interception, it's almost like he's like our linebacker anyway. And then at least he's big, so I tend to think that might be who he's manning because of his ability. That's why I'm giving it a 7.5. If this was someone who wasn't as good as Randy Wags, I'd be giving this a 6, I think, and that's only because of Browns and Ellard on the team. But going 7.5. All right, I know we're going over. I asked Rockman to go to 11:15. You and I are going to stop at 11:15 no matter what. We only have a few people left here, so we're actually on Rico right now. So let's go up to Rico. I just got to get rid of. Oh no, we just have Rico here. Good. Okay, so Rico did the whole O'Neal Bird thing. Solid pick at that level. I don't like Dave Craig at all. I'm surprised he took Dave Craig. Then he took the Otis Anderson pick, which is fine. I mean, if you want the 50 MS running back, which I know Rico is a really big grinder. Then he took Jay Novacek, it looks like, to be his primary receiving target, and obviously to help with the running. But then he took Toon and Carrier. So he took Toon and Carrier because he wanted as much reception as possible. Craig, what he's missing, though, is you need faster guys for Craig. And the fact that his fastest guy is 44 is not enough, for my opinion, for Craig. But that's just my 2 cents. You can correct me if I'm wrong. and then he kind of went down and filled out his defense. His draft almost completely mimicked, honestly. Uh, who does this did we just do? Big Red is the one that went all D, or was it
Yeah,
Drake?
Big Red.
Big Red, where he literally it's just D pick, all offense, then fill out D. So, I mean, what do you think? I mean, I'm not a big Dave Craig fan. Maybe you are. What do you think of this team?
No, I mean I like this team a lot. I think he did the right thing by going all offense after that first round pick. It's the way to do it in this format. I would have liked. I agree with you. I would have liked a better receiver, maybe in round 3, and then maybe take the running back in round 4 if you want a 50 MS running back. I mean, it's easy to say this now after the fact, but um, I would like to have seen more speed. But I mean, he did put a lot of high reception receivers with Craig. So I mean, he has 269 reception to 63 there, so he'll get a lot of CCs. Um, and on defense, like the rest of his draft, I mean, they're scrubs, but I think he has all he needs on defense. So to me, this is like an 8.5,
I'm gonna
close to a 9.
yeah, I'm gonna go. I'm actually gonna go a 9 on this. And if it was not Craig, or if he had a fast wide receiver, I would go 9.5 or maybe even higher. So I'm gonna go 9 just because of that. I'm curious to see what he does with Craig, because I can't picture Rico throwing with Craig, honestly. So
I think he had him a few seasons ago, if I remember correctly.
Oh,
I
well then,
remember playing against Craig with Rico. It might have been like 2 or 3 seasons ago,
interesting.
and he
Okay.
might have finished like 500 or something. I think.
All right, we're on to Rockman. I don't even know if Rockman is still with us or if he's streaming his games. I don't know if he listened to me, but basically, Rockman went with Marino, which was great. If everyone remembers, Rockman had Marino one season and did terrible. Good for him to get Risen with Marino to throw the burn routes and get him the ball. That's great. Hendricks, who has no hands, is serviceable because I think it's 50, 63, 50 RP to be his primary defender, even though he has no hands. He's got his 50 MS running back, which is important for Rockman specifically because he can tap to holy hell. And then he's got Cleveland Gary too, which I assume he's either running the two running back system, or he's gonna put Gary probably at like tight endish, something like that, because he's got James Lofton to play the other wide receiver spot. So it kind of looks like, Blaylock is underrated in a sense that he could probably play some nickel, even though he's slowish. He's still 38 interception, and then that's really it here. So, what are your thoughts on this?
I love the offense. I think it's perfect for Rockman style. I think he should be able to score at will on teams. The defense is where I'm a little bit concerned with. Hendricks was a solid pick. His hands suck, but I think with the speed, no linebacker is going to hurt him. I think his fastest guy might be Lockhart. I think so. Teams should be able to run at will at him, depending on. So I'm not sure who's in your division and if they have any strong running games, but to me, like I think this is like a 7.5, mainly carried by the offense, and I think the defense down a bit.
Isn't Lockhart a 31, 44, 56 guy though? So he can't lurch, but can he still like do something with that?
He could. I mean, it's to me, it's still too slow. Especially if he mans him. I mean, his INT I think is 19, so I mean that'll be a liability if he does have to man him. But
Yeah.
um,
Well, I mean, he's going to be manning Hendricks most of the time anyway. If
yeah,
I'll tell you, if conditions affect his defense going into bad, he's in trouble. And
yeah.
obviously, Rockman is saying it out loud that he is in a weak division, and yes, he is because I suck. So, uh, okay. I just realized I could have filtered this by not by I could have filtered it by team, and we could have gone in better order. But whatever, it doesn't matter at this point. We're on to Speed. So Speed took the Chicago pick we talked about, where we thought he should have taken Chicago well instead of Dent. I think this even more with the later pick of the second pick of Agnew. I think if he was planning on going, another tandem where he could have had a manable defensive lineman, having the Chicago LL was probably a lot more valuable than having than having whatever. So than having Cleveland's. So just food for thought on that. Obviously, he took the whole Hall defense thing to an extreme, and he turned out to actually have some some offense here that he can play with. Although having Reich as his primary QB, 31-44, probably not going to cut it. He has the San Francisco backups, so he's got the 44 MS wide receiver, and he's got the 244 guys. He's got Sammy Smith for HP, which he could probably throw in at the second. My guess is My guess, and here's my gut is that one of those 44 guys in San Francisco is going to sit. One's going to start at running back. Hayward's probably going to start at tight end. Sammy Smith will probably be running back too, and then the 44-50 guy will be at wide receiver with Tommy Kane. That's probably my guess. But other than that, I mean, I just think he's gonna, no, I don't know speed. I've been told he's a JJ offense guy. This is definitely not a JJ offense. So, but obviously he had a JJ offense last season and went 2-14. So, do you have any quick thoughts on this before we move on?
Yeah, I mean, there's always one season where somebody goes all defense and it never, ever, ever works out. I mean, I think it's just, Tecmo is an offensive game, and it doesn't matter if you have studs all over the place. Teams are going to score no matter what. And the big problem here, yeah, he managed a decent offense, but he basically has like the Jets OG ROM offense, but without the receiver. And I mean, yeah, the Jets OG offense could score, but when you're going up against teams that have the ability to align players, like having like the LB4 and the DB3s, which is the standard, it's just going to be a difficult struggle to score the ball. 44 MS is not going to cut it on offense if that's your fastest.
Well, and then
So
and
I
then
really think he's going to struggle on offense.
well, and couple that
To me, this is like a 3.5.
well, couple that too though with the fact that his fastest, his PS is 31. So it's like he's gonna get
Exactly.
he's gonna get inside the 10. He's not gonna be able to thread the ball because Reich is gonna lollipop it up there, and he can't run the ball because he's too slow. So it's gonna be a struggle. I'm gonna you said a 3.5. I'll go. I'm gonna give him a 4 just because of the strength of his defense. But honestly, I mean, to sacrifice your offense so much for the sake of your defense, I can't say I agree with that. That's all. Okay,
Yeah, it's pointless.
moving on. We're on to stall talk. Perennial contender, always dukes it out with Tecmo Bow. So he did the Haddix pick down in the bottom of the first round, who I think is the best defender in the game, in my opinion. I'm a Haddix over Fulcher guy personally. I don't care about the HP and popcorning guys. And then he took Drew Hill, which is great, best receiver that was there. Then he's got Matt Von Johnson as his primary linebacker, it seems, which not fast enough. But what are you gonna do with the New Orleans 44 MS kick returner OL, and then Massey, who's got 56 interception and 38 RP from the Saints. Took Andre Ware. Wish you could have gotten a 44-44 guy for Hill, but he's not really a back and B guy anyway. So it really doesn't matter, although he sacrificed hitting power to take it. So when he's trying to run with Johnny Johnson, he's not going to really have anyone to block. And then he has Mark Clayton on the other side of Hill to keep the defenses honest. So he's got a lot of reception for a low PC guy. But then he's got Timmy in there. So my guess is he's going to run Ware and then switch to Timmy based on conditions. I don't have any inside info on that, but that's my guess. But I mean, honestly, Stahl's a very good player, and I think he can do anything with anybody. So I mean, to me, this is a good team for Stahl. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's a Super Bowl team, I think, for him. I think it's, it might not have the balance that you'd like, but if you're going to pass on offense for the most part, I mean, getting that elite receiver is the ultimate equalizer. You can pretty much, just run the back and B offense if you want to. I know that's not a style. He did get Johnny Johnson, which should sort of balance out the offense a bit. I mean, Haddix obviously is a one-man show back there, so he's going to be tough. I mean, he's always tough to beat, and I think this team is really set up for another Super Bowl run. I think, to me, this is like an 8.5, 9, like somewhere around there.
Yeah, I'll give him a 9 because it's Stahl, not because I think it's a 9. If it was anyone else, I would have given it an 8 or an 8.5. My concern is and I know anyone can do it, but when you have Drew Hill, I had Tim Rosenbach and Flipper Anderson when I had Barry Sanders, and it's just with a 31 PS, it's just hard to get someone the ball. But Ware might mitigate that if he starts Ware instead. But then so it's kind of interesting. I think Stahl can do serious work. I actually expect Stahl to be playing, I'm going to say it right now, playing the AFC Championship game against whoever with this team. So,
I definitely agree.
All right, moving on down. We only got a few teams left here. And I have some big news to drop here in a second. And you guys will hear it here first. So we're on to Tadeos. So he took Bobby Humphrey, which is even more impactful with Tadeos because of his tapping ability. And then he got the Minnesota OL that whoever took Minnesota, or Barletti, I think, did not take them with a 50 MS returner with Lee and Merriweather. Merriweather's another really good nickel. And Lee is, obviously a 50-63 DB. Then he took Bob Nelson for, I guess, support. I don't know. Got his big jumbo guy in Muster. Got John Taylor, who was, I think, a 50-69 or 50-63 wide receiver. Got his 44 PCQB. And then the rest of us is kind of filling stuff out. And then even for good measure, threw Ricky Prohl in there, which I don't know if that was really worth it or not, because I just don't see the point when you only have a 44 PCQB. But regardless. Then he's got Bubby Brister, which to me, that's where Schrader should have gone, was more in the round 9 or 10 range. So interesting that he went so early. So I can almost see him throwing Brister in there here and there, but maybe to throw some burners to Taylor, maybe. I'm not necessarily sure, or if he throws Humphrey at wide receiver, who knows. But this is a team Tedesco can do work with. What do you think?
Yeah, I actually really like this team. I think I love the second round pick. I think having Minnesota offensive line fall in his lap like that was a great pick. I mean, I'm big on the linebackers and INT, so I love Merriweather, and Carly is always on my team typically. So I really do like this team a lot. The 44 QB with John Taylor. I think he has it all, really. I think this is a really solid team for Teneos. Trying to see who else he has at linebacker. That's Tim Harris, right? He has.
Yeah, that is Tim Harris. I'm sorry, I missed that. That is Tim Harris. So he has his nickel linebacker and his lurching linebacker.
Yeah, I mean his defense is really going to be. It doesn't have a lot of INT in the secondary, but I think he has the linebackers to make it work. So to me, this is actually a really good team. I like it a lot. I want to give him a 9.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the 9 as well, and I don't think I'm gonna beat this team. I think I'm screwed. So, but I think that without the INT in his secondary, I will say that Moon and Carter can just throw all over this team. But I probably won't be able to stop them though. Okay, guys. I don't know how many people we have left in here, but I have to give you all, and Ward doesn't even know this. This is breaking news for everybody listening. I'll probably post it in the chat as well. Tecmo Bo has officially quit HSTL. He has been thinking about it for a while. The game against Gats has kind of pushed him over the edge. I won't give Gats the reap because, it was kind of like the last straw instead of the reason. But unfortunately, Tecmo Bo has decided to leave, and he knows what this means about not being able to get back in anytime soon because of the waiting list. He approached me before today about this. I've given him time, over 24 hours to reconsider. I followed up with him, and he's decided to still leave. So Tecmo Bo is leaving HSTL. So while we can call this a Tecmo Bo team, I know Primetime, whose real name is Troy, actually, he is going to take the next spot, and that this will be Troy Primetime's team. If you guys don't know who he is, he lives in Milwaukee with Rico. I played live with him at Tundra Bowl. I'm actually getting a ride from him from the airport to Tundra Bowl on Saturday. So, he's a good dude, and, he's a decent player. He's not Tecmo Bowl caliber, but he's a decent player. Definitely probably, better than me. And that's that. So this is going to be this is going to be Primetime's team, not Tecmo Bow's team. I'm not going to approach Primetime since they're not playing the Super Bowl until Sunday. So for some reason, if Tecmo Bowl is listening and wants to change his mind, I'm going to give him another day. I'm going to basically give Tecmo Bowl until Tundra Bowl to change his mind, because I can talk to Primetime about it live over the weekend. So, Tecmo Bowl, if you're listening, you have a chance to still renege just like Hugh Millen did. All right, moving on now. So basically, we've got Jim Everett. We got Eric Allen as his primary defender with Jerome Brown and Reggie White. That's a great, by the way, to me, that's a fantastic value second round pick. For people who were going all DB there at the end of the first round instead of taking value, I almost would have contended this value was better than taking one of those lockdown DBs, because Allen is underrated with his 50 RP. Stephen Page, which was 50-75, which is enough for Everett. Biner, which is great because Tecmo Bowl can tap. Newsom is a decent drone. Robert Clark is good on the other side of Page to break. I mean, he's a little faster, my liking. I wish he was a little slower, but more hands for Everett to throw CCs to. I mean, this team is built really well. Pinkett for maybe his running back two with high BC and maybe kick returner as well. I mean, to me, this is a pretty well built team. The big caveat is the Tampa Bay offensive line. Tecmo Bow plays O line roulette regularly, and unfortunately has lost, a couple of times, and this was one of those. So he did funny, hilariously asked me if he stayed, would he still be stuck with Tampa Bay offensive line? So he obviously knows he doesn't want that. But regardless, aside from the offensive line, which we both know sucks, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think his team, I think, is really solid. I think the Tampa offensive line really brings it down, though. That's something you can't really neglect because it's really going to impact his offense because he doesn't have. I always think that if you have Tampa line, you need a fast QB, and I did it with Testaverde in the year I made it to the Super Bowl. I mean, like if you have a JJ offense, you can get away with it, but with this type of offense where it's a 50 ms running back, Everett's 13 ms, it's just going to be difficult for them to kind of pick up any steam on offense. So I think it really brings down this team significantly. Other than that offense, I think the team is really solid all around. I mean, Bo is always a good drafter. He always drafts well and always takes the right picks. But it's unfortunate that he ended up with Tampa line, and it is a bummer that he is leaving HSTL. So um, I'll give this team like a 6.5, and it's mainly because of the Tampa line. If he had any other offensive line, I probably would give it like an 8.5.
I'm gonna go digress from you. I'm gonna go 7.5, and here's why. A, because the rest of the team is great, but more importantly, something that has gone unnoticed in this draft is that because the DLs or the defensive linemen were finally separated, you don't have any teams with really jumbo defensive lines that can take advantage of weak offensive lines like you did in the last four seasons we've had. So, well, is he going to have issues? Yes. Or whoever uses this team, are they going to have issues? Yes. But do I actually think it could be like a game, like as bad as it was before, where like he'd have to play, like if he had to play me and I had the Chicago Bears defensive line like I did last season or the year before? Absolutely not. It's not. We don't have that magnitude of defensive lines anymore this season like we did before. So I don't think the offensive line is as bad this season as it would have been in other seasons. So I'm going 7.5, and that's that. Okay, a few teams left here. We're down to the last four on the Tundra Yeti. Did we skip the Mac? Oh no, we have the Mac on the last five, and I know we're over. Okay, so the Mac, he went Derek Thomas in round one of pick 19. I don't necessarily know if I think that I don't agree. I agree. I mean, there's a snarky comment. I think it's a little early for Derek Thomas, especially Derek Thomas by himself, although the KCOL is big. Then he took Dion as a single pick, basically, as his primary defender in the secondary. He's got, the Washington backups for his 44 MS running back, and I think Brian Mitchell's in there too. And then he's got Holt as another piece, I think, in the secondary. He can man potentially. I think Holt's a 44-56, I believe. Kelso sucks, but Conlon is, I think, a 31-44 linebacker he could potentially use if need be. So if he doesn't want to he can put Conlon at LB1. Then he's got Whiskey Wade, which I hate. I had to talk about. And the only person I know that can do work windows with Whiskey Wade is Zer. Haddix is his big jumbo guy. No blocking besides Haddix because of the fact that he took the Houston backups or Houston tight end stuff, probably for McNeil, and then that's pretty much it. So what do you think of this team?
Yeah, I mean it's similar to Speed's team as far as like it's more of a defensive heavy draft. I like what he did with getting the Washington backups because having Ricky Sanders 56 MS is really a game changing type of offensive player to have if you go with a primarily defensive heavy draft. So I think he did the right thing by getting that offense there, which is what I think would have been good if Speed would have done the same by getting that speed there. No pun intended. So it's solid. I mean, even though he went all defense, it's not a great defense. Like he spent his first two picks on defense, and it's like only two real defenders. Um, but and it's not like they're like truly elite guys. They're fast, but they lack like hands for pass coverage. Um, but on offense, I mean, I played him in a scrim, and he was JJing to Ricky Sanders and was working. So if that's the offense he's going to run, I mean, I think he might find some success. To me, it's like a 7. I mean, I'm not crazy about it. I think he has like a lot of good pieces. I just don't know if it all fits together.
Yeah, I would agree. I think to go defense first 2 picks and have these be his picks, I would agree that, I mean, look at what he could have gotten instead. Like, for example, I mean, look at the value that whoever we just went over, was it Tecmo got with that Reggie White, or today, whoever it was, the Reggie White, Jerome Brown, and Eric Allen pick. I mean, that alone to me is more valuable than that KC pick right there, even though Thomas is part of it, just because Thomas doesn't have more than 19 interceptions. So I'm gonna go lower. I'm gonna go 6, just because I don't. I mean, to me, if he is not, and pardon me for not remembering that Ricky Sanders was part of the Washington backups. But to me, if Wade Wilson is off, I don't see him winning a game. I don't. He might get a couple of stops, but I don't think he's going to get enough stops with this team. And for a team to make defense his primary, defense was his first 4 out of 5 picks, and his defense wasn't that good in my opinion. So I'm going to go 6. All right,
Yeah.
last 4, and then we're out of here. And sorry for everyone for going over, and sorry Rockman if you're streaming already. I apologize. On to Tundra Yeti. So Joe Montana, gotta love Joe Montana. Flipper Anderson to pair with Joe, if that's the best that was there, great. Gary Clark, oh, that's not Flipper Anderson, I apologize. That's Eddie Anderson. So Howie Long is also very good and underrated. He can be used in the nickel because he's 31 interception and he's 69 HP, and I think he's a 50-56 guy, 50 RP. I'm not positive. I think he is though. Gary Clark to go with Montana is still fine. So he sacrificed wide receiver. Maybe there was no one left. I might have taken the last good one in Carter, where it didn't make sense to go higher than a 50 MS-75 reception guy. Got the Detroit OL. Spielman is a 31, 44, 56 guy. Whatever. So he's got Eddie Anderson who has only 50 interception. That's okay. Spielman is his primary linebacker he would use, and Hackett's big, but Hackett's not fast enough. I think he's 38 RP, so he really doesn't have anyone to lurch with, so he might be susceptible to those dives. Then he's got Blair Thomas and Hassan Jones to kind of balance the other side of the offense. He took the Rams tight ends probably just because of the receptions, but I mean, Holohan is so slow. I mean, I don't see him throwing him very often. But then he took Derek Fenner, so I don't know. Is he going to run Holohan? Is he going to run Fenner there? Is Holohan going at running back 2? But then you have a race issue. Is Fenner going at running back 2? And then Holohan's going at tight end, and what are you doing kind of thing. So kind of weird right there. And then the rest of it, whatever. So what do you think of this team?
Yeah, I really like it. I think obviously on offense, he's going to be able to score at will. I think with Montana and Clark, you always want to get a 75 reception guy with these elite quarterbacks. It would have been better if you had like a Flipper, Anthony Carter type of receiver, but I doubt that they were available. Obviously, would have taken them. But Eddie Anderson is, he's a good DB. Linebacker is a problem a bit. Spielman is not too fast. Howie Long on the defensive line helps. Yeah, I mean, to me, this team's like a 7.5, 8. I think.
Yeah.
I think he did a great job.
Yeah, I'm gonna give this team an 8. It would be a 9.95 if he had a faster linebacker or a faster wide receiver. And I think the 44 MS of Blair Thomas will play faster just because of his passing threat. Like, I don't see people picking run against him very often. Plus, people underrate the scrambling ability of Joe as well. So
yeah,
he's in a tough division, although seemingly not so tough and not as tough in the very near future. All right, on to Turbo, the other Super Bowl participant. Turbo went Thurman Thomas, who was right after Gats, who picked Neil Anderson, so they're relatively similar people. Then he's doing the Lonnie Young offense. Snagged Willie Gault, which is great for burn routes and speed. He actually has Gault this season too, I believe. So, 2 seasons in a row. Then went Raiders OL, and I think just to get the Raiders OL, I don't realize. I think McDaniel's fast-ish, but I think he's got no hands. I believe I don't remember completely.
Yeah, I think 38 interception. I think.
Yeah, I mean those Raiders DBs are usually fast, but just no hands. But then he's got a jumbo team. Like, he plans on running all over people. It's like he just did it again with Bo Jackson this season. He's doing it again with Thurman Thomas, and he's got Art Monk, who's got the 38 HP as a wide receiver. Tom Rathman, where he's going to use his big jumbo guy. He's got, he's using the Mark Whippen offense. Probably going to play conditions with Cody Carlson from Tampa Bay. I think it's Cody Carlson. or is that
Jeff Carlson.
Jeff Carlson? Cody
Cody's on
Carlson's
Houston.
Houston. Yeah, I knew they were both Carlsons because I think Jeff's the 44-38 guy because Rippon with his 6 MS, and I think he's what 38-44. It's just a little bit weird there. So but I don't see him throwing the ball much. Honestly, I don't think he needs to. And then the rest of it is whatever. So although that I'll tell you though that Andre Waters is going to hurt him in the secondary because I mean Lonnie Young is 56 interception. I don't know what Brock is. He might be lowish. And then McDaniel's only 38 and Waters is what 25. So
Yeah.
so he's got people. If you get here's my thing with him. He can chuck the ball to Galt. Maybe he can even throw Thurman Thomas in at wide receiver 2, and that's fine. And try to throw JJ's. But I mean, his team is not built to play from behind. His team is built to like run the ball, control the clock or whatever. So if he gets behind, I think he's going to have some issues. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think the second round pick of the Phoenix tandem, I think, was early. It might have been a reach. I forgot who was left, but I think there might have been better combos there, or either. So I think in the last draft that we had, I think it might have been season 38 or 39. I think that tandem went in like the middle of the third round. I think it was. So it seemed kind of early. I know he got some flack for it. I think in the Discord chat a bit for it, but um, I mean, overall, it fits his style of play. I mean, Thurman Thomas obviously is going to be his workhorse. Willie Galt with some speed on defense, with some speed on at receiver. I would have liked him to have a better quarterback. I mean, I know he waited. It would have been nice if he would have gotten maybe one of the high PS guys or one of the 44 guys. But Rippon is going to be a problem, and Carlson's really only if he goes into good is he usable. So to me, it's like a 7.5 ish. I think his defense is definitely lacking in the secondary, and I think his quarterback might be a problem. I don't think he. I think Thomas would have been better suited with maybe a higher PS quarterback.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, if you look, I mean, Brister was taken around 9 or 10, and I know Brister sucks, but I mean, do you think that Brister would have been a better pick than? I mean, he could have taken that Tampa Bay pick and put it at something else unless he was dead set on getting around Hall, and he could have taken another high PSQB. I mean, there's other picks he could have made. I don't know why he went. I think he wanted Ron Hall for whatever reason in that spot. Maybe I don't know why. So, I mean, I'm giving this a 6.5 just because I know it's built for him to run the ball. But if anyone stops the runner, they really go up on run against him. I mean, I'm not convinced his QBs are going to be able to get the ball to Galt. Honestly, that's my primary issue. Or I'm not necessarily sure what he can do in the pass game after running so much. So it's going to be interesting to see. So I just don't like. I mean, for how strong the offense is, it's missing that key component in my opinion.
No, I agree. There's definitely something missing there.
All right, couple teams left. War, we'll give you the honor of doing you last and do Zur next.
Okay.
So whoops, I left Turbo there. I did Zur instead of you. That's stupid. After what I just said. Okay, we're doing. Oh no, we're doing you Zur next, not you. Yeah, I was right the first time. All right, on to Zur. So he went with the Dick pick. I mean, I gave him hell for not picking San Francisco. I guess I'm probably wrong. I mean, it really doesn't matter either way. They're both good. So that's fine. I was surprised he went defense first. Then he took his Flipper Anderson, which was his wide receiver he wanted. He took a 56 MS running back in the Chicago backups with Johnny Bailey. And then he took Eric Wilhelm as his QB, which is his 44-44 guy. And he also got Rodney Holman on there, which is underrated for people who weren't paying attention. And then he filled out his defense. He was dead set on this. This is a Zur tactic. He'll get his running back. He'll get his QB. He'll get his lockdown DB and linebacker. And then he wants to fill out all his DBs with as many high interception guys as possible. So he did that. Took Chris Miller, I guess, maybe for conditions, in case, whatever happens, he goes into good. And then, fill out the rest of his team. So, what do you think of this team? It's a Zur team.
Yeah, it's definitely a Zur team, and I actually love this team a lot. I think he pretty much nailed his first 3 picks. I mean, I think getting that defense, and then the 56-75 receiver, which is a Zur staple, and then Johnny Bailey, and then his 44-44 QB. And I think Mark Robinson, I think he's a solid drone, 38-56 think.
Yeah, you're right. He's a 38 RP,
Decent guy.
56 interception. You're correct.
And Bussy is a solid drone as well. Yeah, this team I really love it. I think it might be one of Zer's best teams. I think it's a typical Zer team, but I think it's actually better than what he typically gets. So, um, yeah, I think this might be one of the top three teams I think I've seen.
Well, the
So I
pick,
give him like a 9.5. I think.
yeah, I'd say the pick, the first pick helps him because it gets him his lockdown DB and his linebacker at the same time. Without that, that's probably why it's one of his best teams. I do think the 44-44 QB in round 4 could have been a reach because they were obviously they were there a couple of rounds later. Maybe he did it because he really wanted Holman. There's no other reason for that. I think his offense is really strong, and he's proven he can definitely throw with the 44-44 guide better than most. And then he's gonna, he has everything he needs on D. So I mean, I'd agree with you. I think this might be the best team on the round, to be honest with you. I don't think we can give anyone a 10 because there's always holes. So I'm not going to. But I mean, this is as close to a 10 in my opinion that we've seen.
Yeah, I
So
agree for sure.
I feel bad for everyone in the Central. Sorry, buddy.
That's fine.
All right.
Beats are
I used to too until this season when I gave it away in 2K and then started my downward spiral. Okay. But last but not least, the fearless leader of 2K, War Machine. So, since you did me, I'll do you. You went with Jerry Rice. I know we had talked about it, and you just had never had Rice before. Good for you. Phil Simms will get Rice the ball. You'll be fine. I hope you're ready to play the long ball offense because that's what you're going to really have to do with this. Oh, you did get the Rams backup running backs, so I believe that got you Gaston Green and Buford McGee, who I assume you're going to put McGee, in at wide receiver or tight end, depending on whatever you got going on there. And then you kind of got your defense is fine. You got your Clifton, which is going to be probably your primary defender. You're going to be manning most of the time. Then if you want to go DB, you've got Jarvis Williams, one of those two clones in the Miami secondary, which is fine. So I mean, and then Anthony Miller. So you're really all set. Like you can pretty much, you're probably gonna put McGee at tight end, I would guess, or RB2 if you want to do that pass 2 that everyone loves. So I mean, you're really all set from a pass game. You're gonna be throwing the ball all over the place. So I can see that definitely happening. And then I think the Denver backup, the Denver QB and tight end, whatever. It's kind of like whatever. So I mean, I like it. I think you did a good job drafting here. I think you drafted a very good Jerry Rice team. And I thought you got good value with your picks. Do you have anything you want to say?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, I think Jerry Rice was always a player that I wanted to own at least at one point, HSTL. And I think, given the way the draft fell, I think it made the most sense, especially with my division. I think Rico, Zer, and Big Red, I think all went with the monster defensive tandems. So I kind of wanted to go with like the one guy that can pretty much make them useless. So I think that was my idea, just to go with Rice to kind of negate all that defense. I think my big problem was on defense in the 3rd and 4th round. I typically get the Carl Lee, Eric Allen type of DBs in my drafts. But in this format, they were all gone. And really, I would have liked to have like a faster DB, at least a 50 RP guy. And I wasn't able to get that, or a 50 RP linebacker. I mean, Clifton is one of my favorites, but my defensive speed is just not that great. And I think in the scrims I've played, it's really shown to be pretty easy to score against. So I'm still working on some things to see if I can figure out the right alignment for them. But I was happy with it. I wanted a fun this year, so I think having Rice is gonna get a little bit more fun for me.
Yeah,
So we'll see.
I just hope you are prepared to force feed the ball to Rice. And I would, if you have a second, since we're already over anyway, and then we can wrap this up. If you want to give your speech about the value of the second wide receiver, because you got a really good one in round 6, and what happened in this draft with those, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, so I mean, I've mentioned before in the chat that I think wide receiver 2 is a pretty pointless position to draft, mainly because if you go through all the stats, I think the average receptions for your second wide receiver is like 15 to 16 catches a year. So that's like 1 a game. So to me, when people spend like an early round pick on a wide receiver 2, like in the 3rd or 4th round, to me, it seems like a waste. And I know I contradicted myself in the 6th round, but I mentioned in Discord, the only reason I took them was because there was literally nothing on defense to take. And all the guys that took defense in the early portion of the first round. I just did not want them to get these receivers because it was more of a defensive tactic just to kind of take them, and it kind of started a run of all these receivers. So I hope that kind of worked to my benefit in like not allowing like those teams towards like the top of the draft to get the, you know, Miller's not great, but I mean a 44 MS 69 reception guy, you know, versus getting like a 38 RP 44 INT guy. Like to me, it seemed like a no-brainer just to kind of play defense with the pick.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. So it's just it's good that you found the value there, and I'm not trying to give too much airtime to how the draft played out, but I will say, with the way Speed drafted in this draft where he took all those defensive tandems, I think it could have potentially affected the depth in the drafts of other people just because tandems that were potentially going to be there for some people where they thought they were definitely not. So, but that's pretty much it. I'm gonna give your team an 8 because it's you, and that's basically taking into account that your defense is kind of lacking. But I think hypothetically you shouldn't be stopped unless Sims has a bad Sims game. So that's pretty much it. But that's pretty much all we got here. I know we went way long. I think the Super Bowl thing in the beginning kind of took forever, and unfortunately, going through the first round added some time to this, and then I almost think it's tougher to go through it this way than it was, maybe other ways. But I think that pretty much wraps it up. I don't think we need to do who we think is going to win divisions because we don't have time and all that good stuff. And honestly, I mean, this was a little bit better, and I think it's more in depth. So I think that's all we have here. So is there anything you want to add?
No, I think I think it was an interesting format. I think it definitely changed things up a bit, and I think it's nice to kind of throw different wrinkles into the draft to kind of mix it up a bit. So I think this was a fun one to do. I do think the teams that picked in the top half, I think definitely benefited from this, while the teams at the bottom, I think felt it a bit.
Yeah.
When their picks came, they had a lot of singular picks, but it's always nice to have different fresh format to kind of mix things up. So I think it's going to be a fun season, and I'll be interested to see if there'll be some teams that normally don't make the playoffs. Maybe they'll sneak in because of
So I will say I am working on 2 different draft formats for the next season. One is radically different than anything we've ever done before that I'm actually trying to work on with War Machine. And then one is a variation of the one we just did, except, some tweaks to try to make it better, maybe a little evened out a little bit. So just everyone knows that. Also, to just reiterate, Tecmo Bow has quit, but we're going to try to talk to him. I think he's at Tundra this weekend, so we'll try to get him back and talk him out of it. And lastly, I think the best 3 teams in the ROM, in no particular order, just to reiterate, are Zur, who I think is the best team on the ROM, Stall Talk, and Jesus. I think those are the top 3. I know you probably don't remember, but do you have a top 3 off the top of your head that you think are the top 3?
Definitely Jesus and Zur. I think those two stick out. There was one other team that we went through. I don't recall who it was. Early on in the process. I'll have to go back and look, but I know those two are definitely clearly stand out. So I think those two are probably the top 2, and then maybe the third team might be, close by. So
Yeah.
definitely the 2 teams to be in the NFC, I think.
Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting dogfight. Well, War, thank you so much for doing this with me. I really appreciate it. I know we went way over, but I think it was all good. I don't think we did like any fluff. So hopefully the Super Bowl is going to be played. Good luck everyone playing at Tundra this weekend, and that's all we got. So thanks very much, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Anytime.
All right, guys, that wraps it up. Thanks for listening. Sorry I went way long. Sorry, Darth Rockman. I will see you all at Tundra Bowl this weekend who are going, and we will try to convince Tecmo Bowl once again to come back, and we will hopefully start the next season beginning of next week after the Super Bowl is played. All right, guys, until next time.